Welcome, everyone, to a special edition, and I mean special, not just because it's St. Patrick's Day, of Inside Hockey East. Bernie Corbett, my co-host, the great Mike McMahon, longtime correspondent for College Hockey News. We've got guests. We've got live guests. We've got sort of live guests that'll be calling in. We hope they're alive when they call in. That's my wish, my sincere wish today.
It is St. Patrick's Day.
Absolutely. You never know. I was going to say, touch and go on St. Patrick's Day is one of those kind of days. Holiday, of course, here in the city of Boston. Where we are. Where are we? We're at West End Johnnie's. And for all you Hockey East fans, and, well, look ahead to the Frozen Four in another month, make West End Johnnie's part of your experience coming to the TD Garden. I mean, make it part of your experience whether you're coming for the Bruins, the Celtics, or Disney on Ice. Our good friend John Caron, the proprietor, he's got a kind of a double life. He's West End Johnnie, he's Fenway Johnnie. He's Fenway Johnnie in the summer, he's West End Johnnie in the winter, and we're very, very happy to be here at West End Johnnie's for our production today, our live and in-color production of Inside Hockey East. We're recorded all season, and, of course, it's great to be here. And need I remind you that Inside Hockey East has been, hopefully will be in the future, and for a number of years, presented by Black Diamond Networks, good friends up there at their the Nerve Center, their main office up in Andover, Black Diamond Networks. And, of course, what are they? Brady has this memorized. The experts in technical staffing, building one relationship at a time. Black Diamond Networks, and it is St. Patrick's Day, so thus Guinness and Jameson, I think, is going to be consumed rather freely here at West End Johnnie's.
I would imagine.
Yeah, among other places here in the in the area as we speak around Boston. Evacuation Day, we kick the British out, and it kind of falls on St. Patrick's Day. That's rather poetic when you think about it.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
All kind of the same day.
It is. It is. It's a day for, I mean, there's a reason to celebrate multiple times over.
That's right. Suffolk County holiday that it is here today, which Mike found out on the parking earlier.
It was great.
Mike was very excited about that.
Who knew? Like I said, they still got the $5 out of me because I didn't know, but I don't have to go refill it, so that's good.
So if you haven't made your St. Patrick's Day, come on. You can take Mike's. Whoever gets here first can take Mike's space when Mike leaves in a couple of hours and come in. But we can't thank the folks at Black Diamond Networks enough. Connection to Hockey East with Ryan Mahan. Ryan's going to be on actually later on, and up until last year, he was the hockey ops man at UMass, won the national championship, and now he works at Black Diamond Networks, coincidentally.
Not a bad place to be. If you're going to be at UMass, the last couple of years being at UMass has not been it's been the time to be there.
Absolutely. It has been their time, and been a pretty impressive run for Greg Carville and the UMass program. Also, our display here, we have Andy Brickley's gloves, and I think that John Caron described them as his, how should I say this euphemistically, his socializing gloves. I think Andy Andy enjoys a good time. We'll let it go with that.
Okay.
Andy's gloves, of course, Andy Brickley from Melrose, longtime friend of John Caron. They all go all the way back as Melrose Red Raiders. And Andy, of course, formerly starred in Hockey East at UNH before going to the NHL. And, of course, we are close to the home of the Bruins, and that is Tim Thomas's mask, one of the artifacts here at West End Johnnie's. Our first guest will remember the fact that we've got to put an asterisk next to the fact that Tim Thomas played at Vermont. They were still an ECAC school.
Yes.
They are now a Hockey East school.
Yes.
So,
yes. I've been impressed walking around, and before we started, I was walking around looking at all the stuff on the walls and everything. Like, it's quite a display.
It's its own museum here.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
Extension of the New England Sports Museum with Rusty Sullivan and Dick Johnson down the street. Well, the matchups here in the Hockey East tournament tomorrow night, the early game is going to feature Northeastern. They are the #1 seed. They emerged on the final weekend, similar to 1967 as the regular season champion. They're going to take on UConn. Not only a dog fight, it'll be a husky fight between UConn and Northeastern. Right. And that'll be the first game. And then, of course, later on, we'll have the Battle of Massachusetts, if you will, with UMass Lowell and UMass, the defending national champions. So without further ado, my first guest who's sitting in the green room, I like when I can actually, at this advanced stage, say that there's somebody that's actually been calling college hockey play-by-play longer than me, and actually he qualifies. I think he might be the only one on the planet that can make that statement. Very pleased to bring my good friend over, the voice of the Huskies, woof woof, Rob Rudnick. Rob, welcome to Inside Hockey East. Great to have you here. Yes, that is your headset. And you're certainly all too familiar with your background all the way back to Emerson College. You learn about headsets, I think, at orientation, don't you?
Are you going to ask Bob Ellis about playing hockey at Emerson College when they had a hockey team?
That's right. Bob was, I believe, captain of the hockey team. Was he not?
There's some great stories there.
Really?
I'll leave those up to him. Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Oh,
for
that's
Bob Ellis will be joining us, the voice. We've got all the voices here, and I guess it's fitting to have as the first voice the dean, the reigning esteemed senior voice of Hockey East, like myself, going all the way back to the beginning of Hockey East. Rob, great to have you here, and as you pointed out a few minutes ago, amazing. Year 38 of Hockey East. This is the first year that you and I are baseball guys, that Northeastern actually claimed the pennant, and they did it similar to 1967 on the final hours and the final day to emerge as the first seed and the top team coming into the tournament.
Well, first let me say it's great to be part of this hockey royalty. Mike and Bernie, you guys are fabulous.
Thank you.
Hope the viewers love the program.
Yes.
You might have been there, Mike, at Merrimack that last night, regular season, so improbable and unlikely. UMass Minutemen had to lose both games that weekend, and Northeastern had to get 6 points. And as that game was going along on the second night against Merrimack, there was no score. It looked like if Northeastern would win, they would win in overtime or in the shootout. And then that crazy final 20 seconds and the icing and the face-off that Merrimack wins, and then Northeastern gets the puck. Jack Hughes.
Great play by Hughes.
And Northeastern's Phil Esposito, if you will, from for your old Bruins fans. You just posted in the slot to hit the puck in, and it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it really was. I mean, everybody after the game obviously was talking about McDonough. McDonough scores the goal. That play, like you said, was Jack Hughes. I mean, Merrimack won the draw. Hughes goes in and wins a puck battle in the corner with like three guys on him. Because Merrimack,
one against three.
That's what happened. Merrimack kind of collapsed with the puck, and it was kind of 3-on-1 in the corner, and Hughes comes out with the puck, and then McDonough's all alone in front of the net because they had collapsed in the corner. It was an unbelievable play.
Yep. Had the right guy all alone. You've been watching Aiden McDonough all season and during his career. I love the Phil Esposito analogy. He's about as pure a sniper as there is in college hockey. I mean, goals are a lot tougher to get now. You and I remember the 70s when you'd have a 7-6 game or an 8-7 game routinely. That doesn't happen anymore. He's a pure scorer.
Yeah, well, goaltenders were half the size then with their equipment.
And the equipment was about a quarter the size. Yeah, exactly.
But McDonough can find the smallest spaces in the corners, and he knows exactly where to go with the shot. And he's had success against Connecticut, too, this year. He had a hat-trick game against them recently, so we'll see. It's always good to see the local kids do well. And on the power play, McDonough is, think back a few years to Adam Gaudette, who was a right shot, so he'd be low facing the net on the power play, and McDonough's on the other side, and they love to try to get him the puck for the one-timers.
You put him in that position to trigger, and and you never know. As I always say, the long and winding college hockey season, you might see a team that you saw 5 minutes ago, or it might be 5 months ago. And in the case of UConn, their reward for advancing for the first time is to look at Northeastern across the ice, and specifically to look at a goaltender that made 104 saves just 2 weeks ago against. You witnessed that series. I guess it's almost become, is it a little bit ho-hum to see just how good Mr. I'm going to call him Mr. I'm not going to even use his first name.
I think he deserves that.
Mr. Levi.
Yeah. Well, we've seen some great goaltenders in Hockey East and at Northeastern. Caden Primo recently. Brad Thiessen was a great one. But Levi is something else. He really is. He's Bill Doherty used to call it economy of movement. And he has this ability to be everywhere without looking like he's getting there. Mm-hmm. And he can have his skates against both pipes and his pads on the ground, and he can see behind him when a lot of teams like to set up behind the net now. And he sees that. It's almost impossible to beat him on the first shot. Last night you saw in the NHL game, the Bruins, good goalie from Hockey East, gave up a goal or two on shots that would typically, that are tough shots to score on. Yep. Levi doesn't, he catches them or he deflects them, and he doesn't leave them in front. He's pushing them 30 feet away, or he's cradling them and securing them. So he is really, it's been a lot of fun. to watch and call his games this year. He's a record setter.
One of the things that I noticed a couple of weeks ago in that Merrimack series, specifically the game at Merrimack, where the rink's a little smaller, there's a lot more traffic, he's making saves on pucks that you know he doesn't see. Because you can't. Like there was 11 people in front of the net. There's only 10 skaters on the ice, but it looked like there were 11 or 12 people in front of the net. Shots coming in from the point, and he's square to it. You could tell there's an intelligence level there of not only athletically can he make those saves, but he just knows where the puck is, even if he can't see it. And that's kind of what elevates a pretty good goaltender to an excellent goaltender, I think. And is that something he's shown all year? Because it was amazing, I noticed in that Saturday game.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He's very rarely out of position. He's not a flailer or a flopper. He knows where he wants to be. He comes out far enough to cut the angle down. And yet he's always, as you say, square to the shot. He's not out of position. The goals he allows, he's beaten cleanly on almost every one of them. And would you have 10 shutouts now?
Who's counting? Yeah, he's got already.
And there's a great story with he and the Peretz kid from Quinnipiac. They grew up close. They know each other. They're from Dolar.
Really? Yes, they are.
Montreal, basically.
Yeah.
And
interviewed him. Yeah.
There's about maybe a year and a half difference, but they're friendly and they know each other.
Same neighborhood.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
It's in the water up there, Mike.
No kidding. Yeah, it's in the water to have 950 save percentages. I guess if you come from that
exactly.
That town.
Go find a goalie. That's where you got to look.
He told me Carey Price was his kind of idol, growing up Montreal, and so yeah, it's been wonderful. And when you have a good goaltender, you can win any game, and so that's why there's a lot of enthusiasm around Northeastern, because they have the other elements as well, and now they have Devin Levi.
You talk about the other elements, and I think that might be the point of separation, let alone to have the difference maker in the tournament. I think he's the wild card in this whole Hockey East deck right now for the weekend at the Garden. But the development of some of your young players up front, once again, shameless plug for a sponsor. I got to mention Sam Colangelo because 438 is also local 438 in Stoneham, one of our sponsors. But nevertheless, his development, Fontaine, some of these guys that have taken the next step, you got to feel pretty confident. With Levi in goal, you're going to get enough offense and enough. You might only need one or two to win.
You might only need one.
It's like World Cup soccer. It might only be one, So
you're right. They have almost all the various elements you want. They have with Colangelo and McDonough and Novak, the transfer from Bentley. They've got some size. They've got the speed. You mentioned Fontaine. Ty Jackson's a fast one. They've got 6 veteran defensemen. And in this new hybrid hockey world we live in, the defensemen are oftentimes behind the net, not in the offensive zone.
Right.
And they share and they rotate and they help each other out. But having that, the players that have been around a while, that's been a big help for Northeastern. They have a good power play. They have a lot of just about everything. And then, of course, with Levi, that kind of completes it. Connecticut's going to be a good team, though.
Yep.
They've got age and size. There's Twerberg and Kondelik and those guys. They're strong. They have a good goaltender.
Yep. Hansen played very well against BU last weekend. It won't be easy, but offensively, balance now has been developed the way that guys have developed. You can look a couple of different areas. Always good to look to Aiden McDonough to score because chances are he will.
Yeah.
But I love the defense overall. A guy that I've really liked to watch, and Mike. Over the 4 years of his career, Jordan Harris, the captain, just been a man for 4 years.
Yeah, he has been. He has been. Offensively, seems like kind of the modern-day two-way defenseman. Like you were saying, he can get behind the net and rush the puck. He's part of a 5-man attacking unit, but he's hard to play against. A lot of those guys are. Like him and Struble kind of stick out. And I think Miller, the transfer from Michigan State's fit in really well too. How has that unit kind of evolved over the course of the year, or has it had to, because they're all pretty veteran?
They are. Miller is a good point to bring up, because here's a kid who came in with great experience at Michigan State.
Played a lot of hockey.
We early in the year we were calling him the kind of like the stay-at-home defenseman, the one guy that would. But as the year goes on and he feels more free with his game and he knows he can do other things, he gets chances to score. Kislin, who hadn't scored, has now a scorer for Northeastern. And you talk about Harris. He's just the consummate great in the locker room is another thing that sometimes gets overlooked when you're talking about really good hockey programs. And Northeastern has a good one. They come back when they play a bad game, and everybody has bad games. They recover from that really well. They practice hard. The coach has done a terrific job in his first year, Jerry Keefe.
Yep.
Fortunately, he'd been there for 10 years, so he recruited these players and knows them, and they love playing for him, and he's great in practice. They love the drills, and it's an exciting time around Northeastern. We'll see. They'll be going to the NCAA tournament, hopefully.
Yep.
I guess barring some really crazy. You're the pairwise guy, Mike.
Yeah, they would need a crazy scenario to keep them. It would involve a lot of teams outside of the top 16 winning. Yeah. What's helped them, though, is like you look at the Big Ten.
Some upsets, yeah.
The Big Ten, the two teams that are in the championship game are already in, so that you can throw that one out. That one doesn't really matter.
Right.
In the CCHA, you kind of need Minnesota State. You just avoid 4 or 5 upsets, and you're fine. But if you win Hockey East, it doesn't matter anyway.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think as of this morning, they were like 85, 90% in. So it would take a weird scenario to keep them out.
Yeah, what a year, too, with the Western schools dominating the pairwise.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who's going to hold up the East End?
Yeah, it could be, quite easily now, Mike, 11 to the west and maybe 5 to the east.
It's
a likely scenario.
Way.
Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be like 11 to 5. And, of course, the Frozen Four's down the street here in Boston. I mean, who knows? They could beat each other up. And as far as what could happen in the regions, we could still have Eastern representation here. I guess, once again, we're talking hockey. Nothing should shock us anyway. But looking overall, elements are in place. You mentioned about Jerry Keefe, a seamless transition with Jim Madigan, now the athletic director. And for you to have been around Northeastern hockey, I mean, it's got to be very gratifying for you to see this renaissance, if you will, of Northeastern in the Beanpot, what they've done recently. This year, obviously, a great game with BU, but 3-peating in the Beanpot, winning Hockey East championships. It's really a new level in terms of what I think the expectations are now from year to year.
Yeah, previously there were the pockets of success, 4 Beanpots in the 1980s, the occasional Hockey East championship, some trips to the NCAAs. The coaches that they have for a while would have a couple of good years here and there, whether it was Bruce Crowder, Greg Cronin, or whomever. But now, since Jim Madigan got there and Jerry Keefe joining them, they have expectations now. And it has been a lot of fun. It's been enjoyable. Probably second only to this appearance on this program with you would be the Northeastern success.
Yeah, comes with the territory there. There you go. Rob, you reach these heights, and here you are at West End Johnnie's with Mike McMahon and Bernie Corbett.
On St. Patrick's Day.
On St. Patrick's Day.
Day before the hockey semifinals.
Absolutely.
It's a big day.
Is it a coincidence that one of your producers' name is Patrick? Or did you fix that?
No, he didn't change his name for today. That's right. He's legitimately, last name Donnelly. He's legitimately Irish. Pat Donnelly. I don't know. You could walk down any street in Dublin run into a Pat Donnelly, I guess. But and it was great to have you come in live also, Rob.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
I didn't realize how close by you were with your office.
Very close.
Yeah,
this was great. So I'm looking forward to a good weekend. I hope you guys are as well. And Hockey East is a great league. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
No.
And first year without BU or Boston College, New Hampshire, or Maine, I think.
Yeah.
Brian Smith, who does a great job working with Hockey East, had that note. So it's a brave new world out there.
Indeed it is, and congratulations again, the Hockey East regular season championship. As you said, 38 years, and won this tournament, know what it takes to win this tournament. There's a number of guys in that locker room that know what it's like to win this tournament, and wish you the best, Rob. We'll look forward to the game tomorrow night. I wish I was calling it. I know Mike's on the Merrimack beat pretty regularly, but it's going to be some great hockey this weekend, and looking forward to the Hockey East tournament here.
All right. Thanks for all you do, guys, for college hockey.
Thank you, Rob.
Important stuff.
Thank you, Rob.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Thanks again.
Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Rob Rudnick, I don't know if he had a movie or anything that he needed to plug, but great stuff with Rob, our good friend. And once again, he is the dean
yes.
of the Hockey East Voices. He is still undisputed champion. And people say, "Is someone that's been doing this longer than you, Bernie?" Yeah, there is. You just heard him, Rob Rudnick, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have him on. And
I'm looking forward to just being at the. I mean, that's what this reminded me of. We're sitting here. We actually have someone sitting with us. We're going to be at the Garden this weekend. Like it's nice to be normal again.
Yes.
We had a couple of years here where we didn't have a tournament, and then last year it was on campus. Nobody got together. Like I think it's kind of a bookend for me because we did this show 2 years ago.
Wow. Yes.
2 days before everything closed.
We were literally right at
closed
the
right
end of the
after.
world. Wasn't that amazing when you think about it?
We got done and went home. We woke up the next day and the world was closed. and now here we are getting ready for another one. This is good.
Yeah, and just talking to the people at Hockey East, and Brian Smith's name just came up, and it's just incredible that there's so many things. I think the pattern of this year, fingers crossed, is going to be, wow, that hasn't happened in 3 years.
I know.
It's 3 years because of
crazy.
Anything that happened from March on through your regular annual events and calendar hasn't happened now.
Yeah.
You're 3 years removed. It was 2019, Hockey East tournament, 2019. But it's great to be back, and hopefully there's not going to be an omen or a harbinger of any more pandemics. The fact that Mike McMahon and I are doing a live show in a bar in Boston, it was a bar that no longer exists, I guess, was the one that we were in.
We didn't close it,
before.
though. We knew that was happening before.
Not responsible for the end of T's Pub. We can't take that responsibility.
We didn't curse anybody there.
But it's just beginning here at West End Johnnie's, and once again, we urge everybody to be able to come out and enjoy. And thanks once again, Black Diamond Networks, for all that they do to make our coverage of Hockey East and ECAC and Atlantic hockey possible. 6 champions are going to be decided. It's tough to be the final team standing of the 59 in college hockey, but the league championships, you can't discount what it's like to win your league championship, to survive it, to go through the long and winding 5 months, and then to win a tournament. And what's on the line for these 4 teams is pretty special, Mike.
Jerry York talked about it all the time. I mean, they kind of had a checklist. Even those BC teams that were winning national champions every other year, which was happening for a while, they had a checklist. And it was win the Beanpot, win the regular season, win the conference tournament, win your regional, win the Frozen Four. And there was a checklist every year, and there was an order. And it kind of feels like, too, I mean, in a lot of cases, not all the time, but in a lot of cases, the teams that do well this weekend and win their conference championships this weekend tend to do pretty well in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
You look back, I always feel like every year you look back at the Frozen Four when we're there, and it's like, wow, look at these 4 teams. They've all won 11 games in a row. They've all won 11, 12 games in a row, which means they're all winning right now. They're all winning this weekend.
Yep. They've all
it
down
just
the
seems
stretch.
to be how it works.
Yep, absolutely the case. The momentum that you take from hoisting one trophy to putting yourself in a position to be hoisting another one in a couple of weeks. In the case of whoever wins this tournament, they'll have the opportunity of being in the same building. In 2 weeks here with the TD Garden hosting once again. We've heard from Northeastern. We're about to hear from UConn. Bob Joyce, veteran on the scene down there and calling and covering UConn hockey. And once again, with their accomplishment, defeating Boston University, making a first ever trip here. Just a couple of notes on Northeastern. Special teams and goaltending. We certainly had our opportunity to talk about Levi and all he's meant to their program. Special teams, Northeastern at 19.8% on their power play, 17 for 86. And they've done a lot of penalty killing, and I guess you got to have a pretty good goalie if you're going to kill a lot of penalties. They have, and they're almost 90%, 89.2. But, Mike, the one stat, and you're a stat guy, and I always tell you, I don't know why more of this is not made. I think it's very, very critical. I always look, your number of man up to man down. Northeastern, minus 25.
Ooh.
That's a lot of time.
That is a lot.
Killing penalties.
Yeah.
I guess you better have a guy like Levi if you're going to spend that much time a man down. But that
helps, right?
I mean, I looked at that figure, and I remember looking at it around the Beanpot the last time, and it's a big number.
That is a lot.
Yep.
That is a lot. I mean, you only play 34 games, so you're right at about one chance a game less than your opponent. A little less than that, obviously. But, yeah, that's but it helps. When you get the best goalie in the country, it helps.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, why worry?
Yeah, I can bail you out.
The old Mad Magazine, Alfred E. Newman. What, me worry? Jerry Keefe, I'm not going to worry. I got Levi back there.
It's really been amazing how good he's been.
Oh, yeah. I just look at him as, I mean, obviously I've been doing this for more years than I guess at this point I care to remember. But I can actually say that as a 7-year-old, I saw Ken Dryden play in the Garden and beat BU 7-2. So I can actually say, kids, I saw Ken Dryden play college hockey. I was 7. It was the first year that I went to see BU play. But, I mean, this guy's as good as anybody that I've seen.
It's crazy.
He really is.
And that's what I'm looking forward to about that matchup tomorrow, too, because that UConn game, like you said, we talked about it earlier, 60 shots, I think, in the Friday game.
That was the first night. Yep.
27 shots in the third period.
In the third period.
So I'm really interested. How's UConn going to play this? Is the idea tomorrow going to be we just got to throw? We're going to throw everything we have at it. We're just going to throw every puck at the net and hope that it hits a foot, it hits a head, it hits somebody in the face and goes in there. Who knows? But hope that it hits something and ends up in the net, because that seems to be the only way you can beat this guy.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what that's going to look like, because they just kept putting anything they could on net a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely. If you see it, you better stop it. And we have our next guest. Our next guest calling in, I believe, from the Nutmeg State, and we're getting ready to bring Bob Joyce up and join us here on Inside Hockey East, presented as always by Black Diamond Networks. Bob, okay, just a moment here. We're going to bring Bob up and talk a little UConn Huskies. We've talked about one breed of husky with Northeastern. Talk about a dogfight. As I mentioned earlier, it's a husky fight, let alone a dogfight.
It's a literal
dogfight here between those two, with UConn matching up with Northeastern. And Bob is ready. Bob Joyce, voice of UConn hockey, joining us here on Inside Hockey East, presented by Black Diamond Networks. Welcome, Bob.
All right, how are you guys?
Doing well. You were on with Mike McMahon, also from College Hockey News, just to identify all the players without a program.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know that. Appreciate you guys having me on today.
Well, appreciate you, Bob, and we've got to know each other over the last several years. I knew of you, and a long-time affiliation on the sports scene down around Hartford and Stores, and, of course, with UConn hockey coming to Hockey East back in, 2013. And we've had a chance to spend some time together, and great to have you on. Well, I guess a good place to start, Bob, is historic, is the way to term what transpired Saturday back there at the old home of the Whalers. I talked to everybody. I said I thought I was going down there for an Adams Division playoff game. I was wondering, you weren't, Bob, shame on you. You weren't updating me on the Nordique Sabre scores there while we were playing Saturday afternoon. But nevertheless, congratulations, the UConn program finally getting the proverbial monkey off the back, and not only winning their first Hockey East playoff game, but in the single elimination, they make their first ever trip here to the Garden to take on Northeastern. So a great achievement, a great step for Mike Cavanaugh.
You know, it's funny because I broadcast UConn women's basketball too, guys, and I'm so used to seeing that program win and the success that they've had.
Spoiled.
Final Four. So broadcasting the hockey team is a breath of fresh air for me. It just has reinvigorated me over the last 6 or 7 years, and to see the ups and downs of this program, and the close calls they had, the epic 2-game series we had up at Gannett in 2018. One game went overtime where Bobo Carpenter basically owned us, and then the 2-1 game. And just to see, even this season was a frustrating year, I thought, in some cases, because of all the players and the pieces that they had coming back. I thought they might be a little better than the record ended up being. And sometimes we thought they underachieved this year, but, they just continue to find a way to get things done, and then they got a big break. The last week of the regular season, They split with Vermont. They won that Saturday game, and then all the pieces just fell into place, and suddenly we're playing a home game instead of being on the road for the first round. So it was awesome. And then, the fans, they had about 3,900 at the XL Center given the weather. I thought that was tremendous. What crowd was there provided a ton of energy, and the Huskies fed off of it. And here we are, first ever trip to the Garden for the Hockey semifinals. I can't wait. 24 hours from now, we'll be in the middle-late stages of the first period of the game against Northeastern. I can't wait to call it.
Yeah, what have you seen from them? I know, like you said, with the number of players they had coming back, I kind of agree with you. I thought that this was going to be the year that they win 22, 23, 24 games.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they are at a point in the season where they wanted to be. I'm sure at the beginning of the year, they wanted to be playing this weekend. And no matter what happened in the regular season, they ended up here. Who are some of the guys in particular that you feel like had big seasons? I mean, Connor League's one that we all know about, led the team in scoring, but it also was just a big physical presence. But who are some of the guys that maybe are a little more under the radar who aren't showing up, at the top of the score sheet, but consistently make contributions night in and night out?
Well, Ryan Torberg was a first-team all-conference performer. He got up to a really torrid start at the beginning of the year. And then he picked it up maybe over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks again to be the number 2 scorer. Carter Turnbull's really come on. The other captain of the Huskies has had a great second half of the season. 9 of his 11 goals have come in the second half of the season. Johnny Evans, who was the league scoring champion last year, really had some tough times during the course of this season. And that's not for a lack of effort. I mean, he is number 2 on the team in shots on goal.
Yeah.
In fact, the Turnbull, Evans, the Gatcombe line has been the most productive line as far as shots on goal goes for the Huskies. Evans had a huge goal on Saturday that made it 2-0. It's the first time, in Hartford when UConn and BU have played that somebody's gotten a 2-goal lead, and that was so big. As far as and other guys, I thought, the return of sophomore Nick Capone to the lineup added the physicality part to the lineup on Saturday. A lot of energy. And Chase Bradley, a second-round pick of the Red Wings, he had been out for 4 or 5 games. He came in. He was terrific as well, and it's no secret. It's not a fluke that he was on the ice for the last couple of minutes when he scored the empty net goal. Mike thought his physicality and just his just being so tough on the puck throughout the game played a big factor in their success, and he rewarded Chase for being out in the ice late in the game. And then, of course, the defense, it's been a little spotty at times, but it's been pretty consistent as of late. There's no one standout defenseman. Best offensive defenseman would be John Spetz, who's got a rocket for a shot from the point, 13 assists on the season. And then Darian Hansen, the grad transfer from Union, has just been steady Eddie between the pipes all season. He's got a Division I UConn program record, 19 wins. If they win tomorrow, it would be 20, which would tie the all-time record at UConn for wins in a season by a netminder. And he's just been steady Eddie all season long. So I guess the bottom line is they set out to be in Boston for the Hockey East semifinals, and here we are. And I think one of the reasons why they finished lower than maybe some people thought, their home record just wasn't very good this year. They were 500 at home going into the game last week against BU. But most of the Hockey East games that they played, for the most part, were either 2-1 or 3-2. And they were just grinders every night. Some turned out to be good, some not so good. And that includes the 2 games with BU. I mean, those were 2 frustrating losses. So the fact that they were so good on the road in Hockey East was mind-boggling. But then the home record just wasn't what it was. And here we are, though. They're in the semifinals, and it's just been an incredible run to see this team get on and the momentum that they've picked up.
No doubt about that. And the balance up front, the goal distribution. I talked to Mike Cavanaugh about that before the game. You get to this time of year, if one line gets shut down or if there's a focus about getting your top deep pair on the other side is matched up and struggling, you can look in a lot of different directions. And that really, if you look at it, Bob, your strength down the middle. You mentioned Turnbull, Kondelik, Schlein, getting Capone back. Very, very strong. I mean, that's what really I think gives you the balance up front with your club is the strength down the middle with all 4 centers. As a matter of fact, I would question Mike Cavanaugh on one thing. I think all of his centers are pretty good, but did Kondelik take every face-off in that game on Saturday, or was it my imagination? I mean, he was double shifting. He'd go out there with another set of wings, but every time you looked up, Kondelik took the face-off. I don't think anybody else took a face-off in that game, or maybe I'm mistaken, but I know we really trust him.
Artem Schlein took some face-offs, but yes, he did double. Jake Blue, young man out of South Windsor, who didn't play a whole lot early in the season, really came into the lineup when some injuries occurred, and it was really tough for him to take him out of the lineup. But I noticed that, too, on Saturday. He double-shifted a lot with Nick Capone and Chase Bradley. So it wasn't a secret, it wasn't a fluke that he was out there for a lot of face-offs. But Artem Schlein's been really good this year in the face-off circle. That third line, that supposed third line with Ryan Torberg and Hudson Shandor, they've been solid all season long for as long as they've played together. And then, the first line. You got first off, Kondelik, and who am I forgetting? Why am I forgetting the other?
Kid from Yale, Kevin O'Neill.
Kevin O'Neill. Yes, Thank you for reminding me of that. They've been good. Neal really got hot mid-season. Of course, he scored the big goal at BC to end, get their first ever win up there in early January. And then the Turnbull, Evans, and Gatcombe line came together about mid-season. Johnny was in a bit of a slump, and Mike, knows the history. But with Evans and Turnbull, they played together in the BCHL for a number of years. So that came together with good chemistry. And you had Gatcombe, who right from the beginning of his career has been an excellent forechecker, as the physicality. They've all been productive. So, it's a good thing to see that they haven't had one line to rely on. As good as Connolly has been in all phases of the game, and he has a guy from Russia, and Vladislav Firstov, who I'm not sure we've seen his best hockey yet. He's got a ton of talent, had a beautiful deflection on Saturday. He's got great skill, but I'm not sure we've seen his best hockey yet. So you've got a lot of balance on those four lines that can be dangerous at any given time, and obviously that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. You're talking about Connolly. He took 30 faceoffs in the game the other night.
Wasn't my imagination.
But Schlein took 18.
Yep.
So, they took 48 out of the game's faceoffs. That's crazy.
Every time you look
But you know what?
amazing.
When you get to this point of the year, too, it feels like a lot of coaches, I know, Scott Borick had the same thing at Merrimack. Mike Cavanaugh has the same thing here at UConn. There's a couple of guys that you trust, and especially in those big spots, defensive zone draws, I would imagine he's going to want those guys out there that he trusts the most, and clearly those are two guys, like you said, Bob, that he trusts. He has a lot of trust in when it comes to faceoffs.
No doubt.
Oh, absolutely. Connolly, it seemed like when we were up at Amherst, the UConn-UMass game, I swear to God, Josh Lapine and Joachim Connolly were taking every faceoff. The third period of that. Lapine is one of the best faceoff guys, not only in the league, but the entire country, because of just the way he gets so low on the faceoffs. But Artem Schlein has been really good in that department. And then Turnbull and Evans flip-flopped this season. They both have played center in juniors. Evans played center a lot last season and was a center on that particular line for quite a while. And then maybe 3.5 weeks ago, Mike made the change to put Carter at center to take the faceoffs as opposed to Johnny. But when it comes down to nuts and bolts, you're going to see Connolly and Schlein take the majority of the faceoffs, and I would expect nothing less tomorrow.
And, once again, we had mentioned we had Rob Rudnick on, and the nature of the beast of the long and winding college hockey season. You might see a team that you just saw. You might see a team you haven't seen since October. In the case of the Huskies, and I wonder this, because it's hockey and the goaltender is rather important, how much in the UConn heads and how much can they get out of their head the fact that they're going to be looking across at Levi that kicked out 104 shots 2 weeks ago. I just to kind of be able to get over that hump, if you will, somehow to get a puck by him, maybe get one by him early, the whole game changes, I guess. But, boy, I'll tell you, Levi has just played at such a high level, Bob.
He has, and here's the other thing, too, that I don't think people talk about enough. Northeastern blocks 13 shots a game, too. Now, that might be
good point, absolutely.
Teams trying to get in front to get more traffic to take Levi's eyes away. And, of course, that means more guys in front of the net, which leads perhaps more blocks. They had 19 against BC last weekend, so that's underrated. But, yes, Northeastern gives up a ton of shots, and UConn, those two games, the one in Boston, obviously, they had over 60. I was doing a women's basketball game that night, and during the breaks, I'm going to the stat broadcast page, and I'm just seeing the shots mount up, and I'm going, oh, my God. And it's it. And then we did the game the next day, and it wasn't a fluke. He was making some tremendous saves. When it was 4-2, Johnny Evans had a wide-open net, and Levi basically just threw his paddle out and got a piece of it. I'm like, holy cow.
Unbelievable.
It's not a fluke that, he was the top goalie on the World Junior team 2 years ago in Canada, and it's no secret that, he played for the Olympic team this
season. And then for the Canadian Olympics,
fantastic netminder, but I don't think UConn has to change much. They just got to find a way to keep getting the traffic in front and taking his eyes away, and hopefully a puck finds the back of the net. Now, we should mention the game in Hartford, UConn led 2-0 in that game before Northeastern came back.
Before they came back,
Got a split second. McDonough scored in the second, and then all hell broke loose in the third period, especially after the disputed goal that got changed. But, also UConn didn't really handle that blown call by Scott Hansen very well. And I think Northeastern was able to feed off of that. But I think they just keep doing the same thing that they did those 2 games in Boston. And it should be duly noted, they beat them in October. They scored 5
That's right. They had 5. They had a 5-3 win back in October. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So they did have some success early on that they can call on from early in the year. And Bob, also with UConn, their first ever appearance at the Garden. They are obviously reputation, their track record as a basketball school needs no introduction. National championships on the men's side, the women's side. But the excitement level for hockey, the buzz, the arena going up on campus now, this opportunity to come to the Garden, do you see this being galvanized now? Are we going to see an evidence of Husky fans coming up for this weekend in Boston and supporting Mike Kavanaugh's club?
I'd like to think so. Of course, it's a tough weekend, too, because a number of fans made the trip to Buffalo to see the men play. Now, thankfully, the women are home to host the first 2 rounds. So I would think there will be a decent amount. And, let's not forget what the women's program has done at UConn. They've always been known to at least steal a game or 2 in the Hockey East playoffs, and they got to the final again.
Yeah.
But once again, they ran into Northeastern. So I love the fact that it's not just the men's hockey team that's building a reputation of success.
So the
women's program, the same. And we're an unknown commodity here in the state because there's a lot of great players that come out of Connecticut, and we know what the hockey fever is like in this state, particularly down towards the southern half of the state, where there's a lot of good high school and prep hockey programs. But I just think the untapped potential is there, and we've seen it when there have been big games in Hartford. They can draw 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 for a game. Not unheard of, but I can't wait till this new building's built on campus because you guys know this. I mean, the college game is built. College hockey game is built for the students. And when that new barn opens, and it's going to be a small, tight, intimate facility, it's going to be loud. I'm just looking forward to it. And this is kind of like maybe what football did 20 years ago. They had themselves a 500 season in 2002. The new football stadium opened, and they went 9-3 the next year. And we all know what happened in that decade, going up to the Fiesta Bowl, which is still, to me, just the most incredible thing that one of
exactly.
kind of athletics has ever done. But it's kind of that same thing. You can sense the building of it. And finally, they got that monkey off their back. Here's the other thing for the senior class. Up until Saturday, they had only played 1 playoff game in their history.
That's right, because of the factoring in COVID.
Year,
Yep.
It was only the top 8 teams that went. It was the last year of that, and then COVID. And they had a pretty good momentum run going into that year. The COVID hit, they were going to go play 3 games up at Maine against Jeremy Swayman and the Bears that got nixed. And then, last year, very disappointing loss to Providence, which was their first ever playoff game, and they did not respond well to it. And they took that to heart last week against BU. Getting the lead was huge. Getting a 2-goal lead was huge, and here we are.
And here we are, and looking forward to the Husky on Husky crime with Northeastern and UConn battling for a spot in the championship game. UConn advancing the number 5 seed to take on Northeastern, the number 1 seed. Mentioned about the building on campus, and I don't know, will BU and BC ever play in that building? You're going to keep playing downtown when BU and BC because of the fact that you might get 6,000 or 7,000 people. I don't know. I may never see that building.
Bernie, I'd like to think that the Huskies should play every game first semester leading up to the break on campus. Seriously, they should.
Sure.
And there will be, I would like to think you might get a BU or a BC in there. Why not? I mean, if that's
I'd like
really
to see.
hard to play, you got to play more games on campus. And, of course, that's the conundrum that the state of Connecticut's in because the basketball teams are in the same exact situation. They split their games between on campus and Hartford.
That's right, between Gamble and downtown.
And that really showed itself this year when their first full year in the Big East, being back in the Big East with fans in the stands. The men sold out their last 5 or 6 games of the season. So it's a conundrum, but I would like to think at least the first half of the season, all games will be on campus, regardless who the competition is, and it should be. That place needs to get some use, and the men need to use it, and it has to become that tough place to play that nobody wants to go to.
Bob, thanks very much for coming on to join us and giving your perspective and insight on the UConn Huskies, the other half of the Husky versus Husky. And enjoy the time in Boston. Best of luck to you and UConn. And it's all new and different, and great to be a pioneer coming to Boston here for the first time with the UConn program. I know it's a lot of excitement.
Yeah, my pleasure. And you know, this might be the first interview I've done all season where I haven't had to mention the name Paige Beckers. That's another story for another time.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Bob. Enjoy the weekend. Have a great call.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Bob Joyce coming on from the UConn Huskies, giving us the UConn Husky angle on tomorrow night's game with Northeastern. And you look at it, I'm glad he brought up that game early in the year, because I had noted that they got 5 early in the year. They did something right, so they know that it's possible. It was impossible a couple of weeks ago, but they're going to have to obviously work hard, and with that big, heavy, physical, little older team up front, hopefully the guys that Mike Cavanaugh feels can get it done.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about what could the strategy be for UConn against Northeastern, and we were saying 61 shots, that whole weekend, 104 shots, whatever it was.
Yep.
You think, hey, they're probably going to throw everything at him and hope that one gets by. The 3 games that they played against him this year, UConn shot on goal total was 41, 42, 62. So they've put 144 shots on Devin Levi in 3 games this year. I'm going to guess, and again, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to throw a wrench in tomorrow, but I'm going to guess that we could see another 45, maybe 50 shot night out of the Huskies, looking to beat the Husky at the other end, because that seems to be the. And you know what? When you have a goalie that's that good, you got to play the law of averages at some point.
Absolutely.
If he saves 95% of the shots, hey, we got to take 100. We're going to get 5 in if we do that.
That's right. Levi will be sitting there saying, "Bring it on! Take your best shot." Want to note also, UConn, they've got a similar affliction, but not quite as severe as Northeastern. Once again, my favorite stat that I bring up. UConn power play has showed some improvement. Talked to Mike Cavanaugh about that. He said kind of simplified things. Had some forwards dropping back to play defensively. He said, I think I was maybe just outthinking myself. He's going more unit by unit and making sure he's got 2 defensemen on the ice on the points. It's worked out better. There's been improvement. They're still only 14%. They're 13 for 93. And on the PK, 92 of 107. 86%, obviously, is a pretty solid number you can live with. But again, minus 14. They've given up far more man down to man up situations.
Yeah, so somebody's going to be in the – I mean, unless they end up with the same number of chances, somebody's going to be in the positive tomorrow. So someone will break that stat a little bit. But
look for that.
And also, too, I mean, who knows what this is going to look like. I would hope at this point in the season that you see less power play chances.
Yep.
You would hope.
See, absolutely. More of a let-them-play mentality.
You're going to get a couple. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're not going to have a game without anything. But you would hope that you don't see the games with, 5 or 6 power plays per team or something like that. I've seen some of those like that in the past. You look back, you're like, geez, 28 minutes of this game was spent on special teams.
Spent on special teams, exactly. Yeah.
But this time of the year,
be 5-on-5.
You hope so. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Next up, we now are going to shift to the other matchup, and that's the only features. I was going to say it's Hockey East. The other matchup only features the defending national champions.
Oh.
I know Greg Carvel wouldn't want me to say that. We're not defending anything. That's usually the coach's mantra. But, again, a veteran observer of all things UMass hockey. He's been on the air broadcasting since the beginning of UMass in Hockey East Division I. Known him for a long time. Next up, joining us, we bring on Brock Hines. Brock, welcome. Great to have you on here with us today on Inside Hockey East, presented by Black Diamond Networks.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Love to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to give you a break from the insurance agency now. Things were happening fast and furious, so now you get a chance. You get a respite. You can talk some hockey, warm you up for tomorrow. This UMass team, Brock, you've been around this league for a long time, and what a absolutely chaotic race right down to the final weekend and to the final minutes, really, to sort out the seedings. But UMass positioned themselves pretty solidly, opportunity to play at home, get one of those coveted top 4 spots, and also to put themselves in the best shape of any Hockey East team for the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Yeah, Minutemen are in decent shape. It would seem to be a lock to play next weekend, so that's all good. But obviously their eye is on making things not only right with hockey as far as the Hockey East Championship. I know they got it last year at the Mullen Center, but I think they would like to atone for the loss to Boston College a few years back and win it down at the Garden. So I think they're really focused on this weekend.
Just mentally, I guess, how important was it last week against Providence? Not only get the first goal of the game, but get that second goal of the game within the first 10 minutes. You get a 2-0 lead, nice and early, coming off of a weekend where they could have had the regular season championship but lose 2 in a row to BC. How important was that, do you think, just to kind of get everybody set back on track and kind of get things moving in the right direction again?
Yeah, Mike, that's huge. You don't want to, I mean, they weren't going to get first place, but you don't want to back into this weekend, if you will, with 3 straight losses. It was so big to beat Providence this past weekend. I can't emphasize just for the mindset of this team. So I think that, to answer your question, very big, put themselves in a good mindset to face what will be a very tough Riverhawk team. Just like with Providence, it comes down to these one-goal games. And it's not ironically for you folks that have covered Greg Carville, he will tell you since he came into the league, the 2 teams that he liked to mirror himself against, were Providence and Lowell. And you get them back-to-back weekends. So, and you got them. You got it that way last season too. So, just in the different, later rounds. But so, I think it's a good matchup, and it's a toss-up.
You survived quite a bit in terms of man games lost to injuries with key guys this year, Brock. Health for the UMass club here, getting ready for Friday. It seems like you've got all those key guys seem to be in place. No excuses in that area where over the course of the year the ranks had been depleted on a number of occasions.
Yeah, they were, Bernie, certainly early on, and I know you can appreciate it as well. Nobody gave your team, I thought, the respect, Boston University, that you cover, that they deserved, and obviously they went on the torrid streak they did. Same with the Minutemen. They were they weren't as depleted as Boston University, but certainly they were depleted. And so, no, everybody is healthy and ready to go. It's a new, different type of look and goal with Matt Murray.
Yep.
For the first time, certainly in the Greg Carville era, and I'm trying to go back, even if you go before that, even into the Cahoon era, first time that one of the coaches has been really riding one goaltender the whole way. I always picture, and I picked this school, I don't know why, I picture Boston College, and I picture Jerry York riding John Muse for like 37 or 38 games.
That's right.
You never saw that at UMass. Yeah. Yep. You'd never see that at UMass. There was always a split, whether it be for injuries or whether it was just splitting talent last year between Murray and Lindbergh. But this year it's Matt Murray and Matt Murray all the time with the exception of one start. So that's one of the changes you'll see, and we'll see how Matt holds up. He had arguably one of his best UMass games ever last weekend with Providence.
I'm sure there's some motivation there for him, too. I mean, obviously, came back, didn't have to come back, came back, knew the net was going to be his. And not that last year wasn't special for him. I'm sure it was. He had that win in the national semifinal. But, I wonder just the mindset of a person where you win the national championship, but you're not involved in the game. Now you want to go get one that you feel more a part of because you win that last game. Yeah,
yep.
You win that last game. And he obviously was a huge part of that team last year, winning games in the regular season and winning a really big game in the Frozen Four. But he looks like he's extra motivated, along with the whole team. That was one of the things I noticed, Brock, at the end of the game last week, watching it on TV, was there was I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the BC weekend that kind of just reset the mentality. But I said to the person I was watching the game with, I said, wow, this looks like a hungry, angry UMass team. Like, it looks like a team that hasn't won. It looked like a team that was hungry for that first championship, not necessarily a team that had just won a bunch last year. And that, to me, with the type of talent they have, if you're facing a UMass team that still looks that hungry,
motivated,
that's a dangerous team to face.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, Mike. I when I think of that game, I think that they just wanted to show that back to Bernie's original thought about just getting back on track. I'm not going to lie to you. You can look it up. the Minutemen really have never matched up. I know that they had some wins over the last year or two, but they've never matched up well with either of the Boston schools, the Boston-labeled schools, BC or BU. You can look over the last several years. You can look at the BU record. Bernie knows what it is. For whatever reason, when you have the high-flying forwards that can move on a dime and break when Greg Carvel pinches the defenseman in, and if those forwards don't get back to cover on defense, because as you both know, UMass's offense is developed on the defense. If they don't get back to cover, there's nobody quicker than a BC or a BU forward in this league. I'm sorry, I'll run them all down for you and tell you how all the BC goals are scored. Too many odd man breaks, and I just don't think Providence last weekend, and I'm not certain that Lowell can do that. They can beat the Minutemen in other ways, but that's not the way they're going to beat them. They're just not made up that way. And I think any person that watches Hockey East will put BC and BU in elite category as far as, glamour forwards. That's where they are. And so I think, Mike, I think they really had something to prove, and I think you're right. I think it was don't go in with a 3-game losing streak, and just to show that if we play UMass hockey, if the opponent allows us to, we're going to just bang them into the wall, and that's what they did.
We've talked about Levi, had Rob Rudnick on at the top of the show as being, got to quote the late Sean Walsh, as he used to say, difference makers, Byrne. And he's a difference maker, but I think UMass has got a couple up front equally difference makers, the guys that could say, hey, climb on my back, I'm going to make a play here. And, of course, I'm talking about Trevino and Lopina and the level that they can bring, and particularly what Trevino was just named the player of the year, correct?
He was.
Yep, Hockey East, I think deservedly so. And as you see it, Brock, with these guys, you've seen it before. You really can't underestimate what it's like to have been there. Not only been there, done that, but been successful as these guys have, to have them back and going through the rigors of this whole single elimination process again.
What I think is important at the very end of what you just said and what Greg Carvel said is they will be, win or lose, they will be so much better prepared tomorrow night. I will be shocked if this team comes out starstruck. I remember the Boston College loss in the semifinal game back in 18-19. Greg Carvel says, I didn't have the team prepared. We were just kind of deer in the headlights. We're looking around. We're at the Garden. This is wow. And the same thing out in Buffalo. They didn't know what to expect. And I can tell you last year in Pittsburgh, that team was so much better prepared. I remember going down to do my pregame interview with Scott Sandlin in the semifinal game in 18-19. I remember Minnesota Duluth just looked so businesslike. They were just like taping their sticks up, sharpening. This is just game 17 out of 36 or 34 we're going to play. And I remember going down and I walked out of there, and then I interviewed Greg Carvel, and he wasn't any more nervous or whatever. You walked out, you could tell by the body language, but Minnesota Duluth acted like they were 10 years older, just as far as their age and experience. And Greg Carvel says, I learned so much from that game, and he says, I learned a ton from the Hockey East semifinal game when we got, beat by Boston College at the Garden. He says, we'll be better prepared and expect that tomorrow night. And I have no reason to doubt him, because anything he's ever said, he's made it basically come true.
The word is law. And in the difference maker category, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a guy that's had a tremendous impact as a freshman with Scott Morrow. And he's got a little magic in his game. Mike, would you agree? My goodness, watching this guy play has been off the charts this year.
Him and Ufko.
And also not to underestimate Ufko. That's right.
It's incredible. They're becoming a defenseman factory over there at UMass. Just churning them out.
Real quick, you said Lopina, of course, and Trevino, and I want to say on both of them, you're both right, Bernie, when you mentioned that. And Lopina, one of the top 3 in the nation in face-offs for guys that have taken more than 450. So those are both huge. Now to your point there, both of you unintentionally just played it perfectly. That's what most people in hockey do. They will say Morrow wow, slick skater. Greg Carvel says as far as a pure skater, better than Cale Makar. Not fast, but just as far as movement. And then they go, oh, yeah, what about the UFCO guy? And
right.
you guys unintentionally, not to set it up, you guys did it, and that's how most people look at this team. And they only were, I believe, 3 points apart. I think Morrow had 32 points, UFCO had 29. But nobody thinks of UFCO because they see the flash of Morrow, where UFCO's a little more stay at home. And I'll take Ryan UFCO right with Scott Morrow. Either one, it's a pick 'em again. But yes, Morrow's awesome. I mean, people in Carolina will be very happy with him, and the people in Nashville will be happy.
Happy with Scott, definitely with Scott Morrow. And did we lose Brock? Unfortunately, we lost Brock. But you were saying, Mike, just don't sleep on UFCO. If anything, he might be in a support group with Scottie Pippen now.
It's amazing. Like you look at Morrow, UFCO, obviously Makar, Delgaizo. I'm missing one. Who was there? Zach Jones.
Zach, my favorite. My guy that I told
one after another.
I told Quinny all about him, and then Quinny was gone. I said, Quinny, you're gonna love this guy, and he did love him, and then Quinny was gone. Welcome to pro hockey, unfortunately.
Well,
Brock, we got you back. Brock, we got you back. I just was talking about Mike was just saying, 29, 32 points, as you pointed out, they're very close, and anybody that sleeps on UFCO is making a mistake, that's for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. I think I said this before you lost me there. The people in Raleigh or in Nashville, they'll both be happy in a couple of years. They're only freshmen. They still have a little more development, but I think both both programs will be very happy, both teams.
And Mike, anything else, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, is there something in the way that they recruit or in the way that they develop defense? Because we were just talking about it when you dropped off there for a second. Morrow, UFCO, obviously Makar, Jones, Delgaizo. It's like every year there's two number one. Yeah, there's two number one defensemen on the team and has been for seems like 3 or 4 years now. And it's kind of started with Makar. You kind of get that first one, and then all of a sudden more and more defensemen maybe look at your team and go, well, that's a place I can go and end up in the NHL in a couple of years.
I think, Mike, I don't know this, but I think that if you're looking at different hockey programs, you're probably, if you're a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you're going to look and see what that program is going to give you. And I think what they're going to see is that Greg Carvel is going to base his team, if you will, on defense. And that's it's going to be a defensive-minded team. That doesn't mean you might not get some flashy forwards, but I just think he's showing that the game begins on the blue line, and hopefully the goal line as well, and works its way out. And I think that's why you're seeing some of the headlines about defenseman factory. UMass is becoming this. Not recycling, but this developing defensemen and bring them in and we'll make them NHL. It doesn't mean you'll get good forwards, but I think it's been very clear since this team, after the 5-year win this first year, I think it's pretty clear that this team is, even though they've had some offensive stars, they've really been back on the blue line. And I think that you're going to attract upper-end defensemen to this team unless Greg Carvel decides to take the program in a different direction, and I don't know why he would at this point. And again, that's not to discourage high-end forwards to come here. I just think that the style this team plays favors, a defensive style, and that's why you're going to get, Morrow, UFCO, and then you can work backwards to Zach Jones and work your way back to Makar.
Yeah, no doubt. And final point, and it's one that I think from a thematically, if you will, the fact that for better or worse, you be the judge. I've covered this league since day one. I can remember this league the day that it started in the press conference at the Parker House. Kind of fitting that it was at the Parker House. I don't know why, right? But it was at the Parker House. But just thinking of how the league has evolved, Brock. I mean, now the expectation level that Greg Carvel has brought. I mean, there's been a little bit of a flirtation with pro hockey. But it seems like Greg Carvel is very happy at UMass, and UMass is very happy with Greg Carvel. And this is really kind of as I always say, Anybody can be a team for a given season. Different story to be a program. And this UMass, they're a program.
Oh, yeah.
They're on the map now, and I think the expectation level is commensurate with that.
I would agree. And, you mentioned, maybe potential opportunities. Is he happy, and how long will he be in Western Massachusetts? And I don't know the answer to that question. I think Mike would probably know more inside than I would. It's not discussed here, but based on what he has signed for a contract here, the fact he went to school here as a grad student, his wife is from out here. You then look at his kids and the age that they are. I'm not naive. If a pro team threw him a number that he couldn't refuse, I get that. But I think he's very happy with the college game, happy with the University of Massachusetts.
Yep.
And you look at what he's done over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and I don't know, why rock the boat? So I think it would take something from the professional level that would be you can't refuse. I mean, everybody's got a number, I guess, guys. We all do.
Sure, yep.
But you can't lie. So Greg Carlo can tell you, Mike, if you interview him for one of your stories, he can tell you I'm staying in Amherst for until 2030. Hey, you know what? I mean, if I can't pick an NHL team. Arizona could transfer to Houston, and they're looking for a new coach, and they could throw him a number. It could happen, but that's a long answer to what Bernie said, and it is. He seems to be settled out here, and I would agree with you, and I think he's very happy and very comfortable at this level in my discussions with him. So we'll see what happens, but it's fun to be regularly in the discussion now about what happens in the postseason beyond the first round, Bernie. Because whenever I saw you, Bernie, it was first round with either you or, whoever else was the first round opponent in a 7-2 or 8-1 matchup, and it was gone. And I was used to doing that for 25 years. Now it's it's serious. It's true. 24 to 25 years. We didn't go to an NCAA tournament. We made it to the Garden back in the infamous triple overtime game with Gabe Weiner, and back in the early 2000s with Maine.
Epic game, yep.
But aside from that, I was always conditioned to middle of March exit, and so now it's different to be associated with something like this, where you're just wondering which regional you're going to get to go to. Are they going to keep them east for attendance-wise, or do they punish them if they lose to Lowell tomorrow, and do they send them to Allentown, which I don't think will happen. But so what happens? And it's a cool way. It's a real neat way to experience UMass hockey now. So, I've enjoyed it over the last several years.
Oh, indeed, it has. To new heights that have been reached, and all the way to the top rung and to the pinnacle, the Pantheon, with the national championship a year ago. Brock, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, as always. And best of luck. Have a great call for the Battle of Massachusetts. It'll be UMass Lowell and UMass Minutemen renewing their rivalry tomorrow.
Bernie and Mike, you guys are the best. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Brock.
Thanks, Brock.
Brock Hines from the UMass Minutemen Radio Network, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here on our special edition from West End Johnnie's. Make it part of your garden plans. Make it part of your Hockey East weekend, your Frozen 4 weekend, Disney on Ice. Dump the kids, come to West End Johnnie's, have a beer. You know the routine.
I'm going to mention this. So we have our annual CHN team dinner during the Frozen 4.
Yes.
I got to get Adam Woden. He's asked. We've talked about it last night, actually.
I'm lobbying for this.
And that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
He was saying you got to know any places around the garden, and I said there's a ton of places around the garden, but this is the place.
Look no further.
This is you can look all you want. This is the place. So yeah, I think we'll be back here.
Indeed.
You have an annual invite to the CHN team.
Yes, that's right. I'm the crazy uncle of college hockey news. Stress the crazy, as Michael attests to. He's actually rooming me in some of those distant outposts of the road, the Frozen 4.
Pittsburgh and Philly.
Yeah,
I think both.
Yeah, we had
We
great
were telling
time.
the story on the way up here, how you saw the future on a drive back from Philadelphia.
Looked in that crystal ball for the 2015, and I just told you how good Jack Eichel was going to be. And, well, I guess
you weren't wrong.
It made me look, as we say in Boston, it made me look smart, as we say. Smart. It made me look smart.
You know, we
I think we might have. I think Bob Ellis called in that 978 number. Bob must. Well, how are we queued up now, Brady? We got the commissioner is supposed to be. What time we have now? 5:15 for the commissioner, Steve Metcalf.
Yep, anytime for Steve. Yeah.
Okay, what time is it now?
5:15.
Okay, so hopefully Steve will be calling in, and we want to give Bob Ellis equal time. It looks like Bob might have got stuck on the crosshairs somewhere, so we definitely want to get Bob on. We'll have to readjust a little bit, but we're going to leave the light on for Steve Metcalf, the commissioner here.
live programming. Sometimes you got to changing on the fly, right?
Exactly, just like Saturday Night Live. Just a couple of other points there that I had noted with UConn. Talking about UConn, it's funny how sometimes you take a look at these things. Their best period, they've been an overwhelming team in the second period for whatever reason, 41-24. But Northeastern, you talk about a strong finisher. Maybe it's the confidence that a guy like Levi back there gives you. But, Mike, they've outscored teams 42-16 in the third period. I mean, you know, you better do your damage in the first two periods, I guess, is the bottom line there. Because the third period, here they come, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to beat a team. I mean, that's less than a goal a game. 41-16, that's more than a goal a game in third periods this year. That's crazy.
Is Steve with us? All right, Steve. And you talk about appropriate because Brian Smith is walking in, and we've got no demerits. Punctual, he's walking in, and we've got the boss on the line here. Not Bruce Springsteen, but the other boss. We got Steve Metcalf, the commissioner of Hockey East there. So, Steve, welcome. Your staff is accounted for. They're about to go drink some green beer and start to relate. Oh, no, I'm not going to. Did I just rat out Brian Smith? I didn't mean to. He's a proud son of the old sod with Brian. And, of course, Steve, I don't know what St. Patrick's Day with your English background. This is probably a day that you don't celebrate. Welcome to the show, by the way.
I wouldn't say we wouldn't celebrate it, but you know, we consider ourselves close neighbors to all things Irish.
Yes, exactly. Close neighbors, and of course, I don't know. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this is a here in Suffolk County. It is a holiday, and of course, it's Evacuation Day. That's how they've got around St. Patrick's Day being a holiday for about the past 200 years. And of course, I hate to bring it up, Steve, but of course, Evacuation Day is when the British left town. No forwarding address.
Yeah.
But you're just coming to town for your first Hockey East tournament as commissioner. And, Steve, a lot of excitement, but I guess kind of a wild, from talking to Brian, kind of a wild and crazy time around the Nerve Center of Hockey East to get ready for this tournament because everybody's a little out of practice now. It's the first time in 3 years that we've had this tournament back at the TD Garden.
Yeah, that's right. It's look, we're delighted to be back at the Garden, but as you pointed out, missed 2 years in between, you know, for everyone. And then, you know, for myself personally, sitting in this chair, my first time going to the Garden in this role. And look, we're delighted to be back. And we've been, you know, talking to our friends at the Garden quite a bit anyway, because of the Frozen Four that we're involved in and also the Hockey Championship. So it's good. You know, we're talking a lot of hockey with those folks.
Has there been anything that's come up this week? I'm interested because I'm sure that has. But is there anything that's come up this week that's been a surprise where it's like, oh, I forgot we had to do that or something? Because we haven't done this in a while. Like you haven't been here in a few years.
Details, you know, devil in the details.
Well, we're lucky we have the Hockey East historian Brian Smith still with us.
Yes.
So
yes.
So he keeps us on task. You know, one thing that we didn't do this year just because people were still just, you know, practicing an abundance of caution, if you will. We didn't have the, you know, the awards reception live and in person. You know, with everyone kind of in tight quarters, everyone just said, well, just hold off on that till next year. So I think if we had to done, you know, put that on tonight as well, we would have really been drinking from a fire hose. So, you know, maybe that was a blessing and we get our feet under us and kind of reset and refresh on how we do everything, and then we can really do a bang-up job with that next year.
Yeah, absolutely. When not drinking from the fire hose, you can go right to the green beer and skip the fire hose. It'll be a little less daunting for you, Steve. And, Steve, you coming in, I guess, you know, it's all in the timing. And we've talked, and I've had the opportunity to interview you and get to know you, and I knew you at UNH and the work, how closely you worked with hockey. But coming in at the time that you did, navigating through the difficulty, the vagaries of the COVID season last year. And, I couldn't compliment you and enough for you and Brian, your staff, for the way that you were able to get through. It must have made this year was a breeze, I'm sure, in some ways, after what you were able to negotiate last year.
Yeah, I think that's probably, in some part true. Last year was so difficult for all of us, and things were just so ever-changing, and needless to say, the schedule, we were literally changing every week. So that was challenging. So that's been nice not having to deal with that this year. This year was our first year playing a full schedule. So, the season was longer, the amount of games was more, and so we really jumped right into it. So although it seemed easier on one hand, we got a dose of what a full season looked like. And for many of us, especially in this business, don't forget we lost the end of the previous season. So it has been a little bit of time since it was kind of back to normal. So I think for a lot of people that felt really good. And even now, as we get to the very end of the season, I think we're all going to some games where some of the restrictions and, COVID-related restrictions were getting eased back. And so it was looking and feeling even more normal as we get to the very end of the season.
Did it kind of feel like a normal year in terms of the league? I mean, not a lot of things had to be moved. Like I said, the schedule last year was week to week, but maybe a couple around Christmas. I think we had some movement there with the schedule, maybe a little bit at the beginning of the year. But were you surprised at how smooth that process kind of went this year? Because it seemed like, last year, obviously, it was just it was a week-to-week
chaos,
thing.
From week to week.
Oh, yeah. Last week was pure madness. That was just, the stress that we had, and I think that everyone had, just trying to figure out who was going to play when and where. Last year was just, really like if I write a book on this, that's going to be a couple chapters right there.
That's right.
But this year, you're right. We didn't have very much interruption. Around Christmas time, there was a couple weeks where it was a little hairy, I think, for everyone. And, but in that time, it was teams playing non-conference games mostly.
Right.
And so we did have to reschedule, move a couple games. And in one case, we moved a series on to a couple Tuesdays, later in the season to make it up. But at the end of the season, we played a complete conference schedule on the men's side. On the women's side, I think we were only 3 games short. And then, a lot of teams played their full non-conference schedule, but a couple, missed a couple of games here and there because they were going to play them in that time frame, and they just couldn't make them up. But, really, we played, 99% of our games that we wanted to play this year. So that felt really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great leap forward from last year. It was like a game show at Brian Smith. Who's your next opponent is, fill in the blank. I talked to him on Monday to find out who we were playing with Boston University. The relationship with Nesson, I don't think it's ever been stronger, Steve, and I don't think the exposure has ever been at a greater level. And kudos to you and everybody for Hockey East for the number of games that have been on the men's side, the women's side, between Nesson and Nesson Plus. It's been a great outlet and a great buzz. I get a lot of comment from a lot of hockey people that I run into about the exposure for the game that was really, I think, taken up a notch this year.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for mentioning that. Look, I got to give a lot of credit to Brian Smith. He really worked hard on this. This was the biggest package we'd ever done with Nesson. Nesson, as you mentioned, they've been great partners with us for a long, long time. And a great outlet. Now they have, 2 channels to put content out there. So as you mentioned, we also put a lot of women's games on. And one thing we learned, I think, last year, maybe if there's a positive takeaway, is people maybe had a little more flexibility than maybe they used to have. And so we were able to, getting into this year, we played a couple games on a Thursday, or we had some Saturday afternoon games where, showed up a little more frequently so we could do a doubleheader with Nesson. And, perhaps those things weren't so easy previous, before COVID, because people were just much more rigid in Friday, Saturday at 7, Friday, Saturday at 7. And, and I think that was good. And it's, in some cases, I can think of a game, Providence BU game, that right after the Bean Pod, I think, we had asked both schools, hey, if you want to move this game to Thursday, we could put it on prime time in Essen. And they both said,
That's right.
no problem.
Yep, that's
And,
right, February 10th.
I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't know that would have happened, 3 or 4 years ago. But it was a great fit for both institutions into the schedule, and it gave us a great prime time game to put on Thursday night on Nesson.
And not only the Nesson package too, but I know even just online, the streaming with College Sports Live. I mean, it's so easy to access all of these games. I mentioned it to someone at the beginning of the year. It's so much different than it was 10 years ago, where you had your games that were on Nesson, and that was that. And the schools maybe streamed the games, but there was, you paid $10, $15 a game. You can see any hockey game you want now. You can watch all of them. You can literally watch all of them.
Absolutely. You can follow them all.
It's really amazing to be able to watch any game you want, whether it's live or on demand through either Nesson or College Sports Live. I mean, it's really probably one of the best streaming packages in the country, I would think.
No doubt.
Well, I can remember a phone call from an AD at the end of last year, who shall remain nameless, who said
they always do.
who said to me, he called and you kind of brace yourself for like, all right, there's some problem here, or he's got COVID, or like, what's happening?
Yep.
And he was calling to say exactly what you just said about the stream and the CBS and how easy it was to watch, and you could flip back and forth games. And he said, look, maybe pre-COVID, I didn't consume much content like that.
Yeah.
But now, because people couldn't go to games in person, people were consuming the content, more in that fashion than they had previously, and it was so easy to do. And he called, and he was, like I said, complimenting on the ease of use. And then I said, well, anything else? He goes, no, that's it. I just called the thing. And I'm like, oh, my God, let me write this down.
That's right. I better record that call. Absolutely.
Right.
It's almost like NFL Red Zone. That's what I feel like. Obviously I cover one team more than the others, but if I have a Friday night off and I'm at home, it's like, all right, there's 4 games on. That one's 2-2 in the third period. I can go to that one just with one click. You feel like you're watching Red Zone on a Sunday afternoon.
That's right. You can flip
well,
around, follow everything.
Yeah, and imagine how easy it is for me and even our supervisor or officials. Like, he certainly went to a lot of games because he wants to talk to some of the people in person. But sometimes when you've got an afternoon game or 2 afternoon games, he could flip back and forth so easily, and then he could go and see it like at 7 o'clock or in person or something. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's been a very. Once again, big step forward on the accessibility, the availability, and thus the exposure for the league. Steve, as we wrap up with you, and I think that your esteemed associate commissioner, he's on break right now. I'm going to just say he's on break, much needed. I can tell you that much. He found his way, sprinkled some breadcrumbs. He found his way from the TD Garden to West End Johnnie's for Inside Hockey East, brought to you by Black Diamond Networks. Very pleased to see that. But the final point, would be remiss if we didn't mention, we're hoping to get Kat Cornetta, the college hockey, women's college hockey expert. But once again, Northeastern is looking to make some history of their own, not just on the men's side, but on the women's side, back to the Frozen Four once again.
Yeah, look, I said to Jim Madigan over at Northeastern the other day, I've been, seems like I've been over to Matthews Arena quite a bit the last couple of weeks. They've won some. Won the regular season. They won the women won the tournament there. They've won some major awards for their players. And then I go back, Coach of the Year on the men's side with Jerry Keefe, a Rookie of the Year. They won the regular season. Northeastern's had an unbelievable year. But specifically with the women's team, I think they seem to be really peaking at the right time here. They worked through some injuries at the beginning of the year. Obviously, they had a couple of players that were gone, most notably Mueller for the Olympics. She came back. She settled back into the rhythm. And, they really handled Wisconsin, I thought, when they played in the first round of the regional round of the NCAA tournament. And, I guess I like their chances. I've seen them play a bunch, and I've seen them play well. And, they've got the best goalie in the country, and they got a bunch of people that can score. If they win they play tomorrow in the semifinals, they win on Friday. My my plan will be to jet out to State College first thing on Sunday morning and see them play in the national championship.
Yeah, no, look forward to that. It was men's national championship last year, and still very much in play on the men's side, but also on the women's side with an opportunity. Steve, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and appreciate you and everybody at Hockey East. Brian, give me the opportunity to bring back Inside Hockey East here and have a chance to do it here live from West End Johnnie's. All the best. Look forward to seeing you this weekend. Yeah,
great talking to you guys, and look forward to seeing you as well.
Steve Metcalf, Hockey East Commissioner, with us, and very pleased to have him here. And we're getting ready to go to Bob Ellis. I think Bob might be feeling, a little bit slighted there. I think we might have had a hitch or a glitch earlier, but all is well, all is forgiven, and great to have once again, as we said with Rob Rudnick, the longtime voice of the UMass Lowell Riverhawks, Bob Ellis. Bob, welcome, and the Riverhawks are back in what has become familiar territory with Norm Bazin, and that is back in the Garden.
Certainly it has been familiar territory for Norm. First, it's a pleasure to join you. I thank you for the warm welcome. And secondly, the Garden's getting to be a familiar place. Norm's teams have played a total of 10 games there. They're 8-2 on Garden ice in the now 11th season that he has been the head coach.
And,
now, I will say Norm didn't have as much success as a player on Garden ice, although they did get to the championship game against your hockey club back in 94.
94 against BU. I remember that game well, Bob. Yeah, we both do because we're old. We can both say we remember that game. People are out there saying, how old are these guys? Well, we're pretty old. But
I guess bottom line, very old. But anyway.
Very old. Just put the very in front of it. That qualifies. But nevertheless, it never gets old for being able to call the games and your long association with the UMass Lowell program. I haven't seen your team live since early in the year, and there's been a rather, shall we say, Belichickian atmosphere around the Lowell program. So, unfortunately, I love Norm. I haven't talked to Norm in a long time. You've got to be the voice for UMass Lowell in more ways than one, kind of the spokesman to give us some perspective on where this team is at. I know that this was somewhat of a retool group at the beginning of the year, but here they are once again. As you've seen this team develop, if they just kind of in the image of Norm Bazin, as you say, during the course, they've just become kind of your standard issue UMass Lowell hockey team as they've developed over the course of the year, kind of living up to and the bar that's been raised by Norm now over the decade.
Now, first, I would say I cannot be the spokesman for the hockey team, but I will be the voice of the broadcaster in my observations. And my observation is, this is the same UMass Lowell hockey team that we get to see all the time. There are no superstars. There's a lot of hardworking players, and they play Norm's system very, very effectively. I remember Jeff Jackson at Notre Dame. I don't know, maybe it was 2017. It was on this day in 2007. This day in 2017, the Riverhawks beat Notre Dame in what was Notre Dame's last Hockey East contest. I think it was a 5-1 final.
Right. Yep.
And they would go to the Hockey East championship game the next day and win. But Jeff Jackson said to me in a pregame interview, might have been a year or two before that, but still holds true to this day, it's like battling an army of clones. Everybody does the same thing, and they do it every single shift of the hockey game. They lost some people, and you got to see one of them, Matt Brown, a very talented forward.
Yep.
They lost
a lot of
him.
skill.
They lost Chase Blackman, who'd been probably their top offensive defenseman. But they've plugged in other pieces. Nick Austin's been absolutely terrific on the blue line. Up front, Ryan Burchett has replaced Matt Brown. They're not the identical type of player, but they've been able to find ways to get people that score goals. And one assumes replaces that was lost. But this is the typical UMass Lowell blueprint. They're tough to play against. Puck pursuit, puck possession, puck aggression. That's kind of the three pieces. And they just do it shift after shift.
Obviously, too, they've got a goaltender that if it wasn't for Devin Levi, we'd probably be saying is the best goaltender in the league. And Owen Savory. The poor guy gets overlooked probably because Levi's been so good. But not only does he defend the net really well, but one of the things I noticed, especially last week watching him against Merrimack, was, as you would expect, like a typical Lowell team, they defend the front 5 to 6 feet of that crease better than maybe any team in the league. Like it is crazy how well they defend that inside area of the ice here right at the net front.
And no, it's been a focal point since the day Norm took over the program. both offensively get to the net front and defensively defend the net front. And yes, Owen Savory's been absolutely terrific for this hockey club. You know the numbers, 185 goals against average and 929 save percentage, something such as that. But more importantly, I think for Savory this year, he's made, it's not how many saves do you make, and he made 39 against Merrimack, which is, I think, the highest in his Lowell career. It's not how many you make, it's when you make them. And he has stepped up at key points in hockey games and has acted as a difference maker. And I think that's a different talent than just having a great save percentage. It's rising to the occasion when you're needed most. And no question, Owen Savory has done that this season. And, you talk about the team. And Merrimack had 39 shots on goal against the Riverhawks. Or actually 41. Savory made 39 saves. That's the most that the Riverhawks have seen from an opponent this year. They've been, in typical Norm Bazin fashion,
Yep.
I think I figured out they're 8th or 9th in the country in fewest shots on goal allowed per game at 25.59, something like that. Now, okay, it's not Quinnipiac and Minnesota State numbers at about 18 shots on goal per game. But still, if on an average night you're seeing 25 shots on goal, you're probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
And it also means that defense in front of the net is preventing rebounds. There aren't those second opportunities.
And for a team that took, as you mentioned, a pretty big hit with Matt Brown's departure, and mentioned on the blue line with Blackman going to Notre Dame, etc. It's been a pretty good by committee. Bruchette got a pair against Merrimack. Hate to bring that up, Mike. Berglund had a pair. I mean, all of a sudden the puck jumps in. They get 7 last week, and I'm looking at the power play number. The fact that they got a power play 23.3%. You can live with that.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty important.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty solid all year long, and you can't point over. Bruchette's been terrific on the power play. So's Berglund, but you can't say it's this one group, and that's what makes the power play go with this one individual. So much of what Lowell does, whether it's the offense or on the defensive end, is really a group effort. You talk about a 5-man offense, as is popular to say. And while the defense hasn't gotten a lot of goals, necessarily a lot of points, have been very much involved in the offense. It truly has been a 5-man offense, truly been a 5-man defense. Penalty killing unit's been up and down, playing a little bit better as of late. Power play, though, has been pretty solid from game 1 to what will at least tomorrow night be game 34 for this hockey team. They've been pretty consistent at creating opportunities, putting some pressure on, and as you note with the numbers, scoring some goals as well.
They're an experienced group, too. That's one of the things that sticks out about this team with the juniors at the top, the seniors at the top. I mean, it's one of the things that I thought was so important in the game on Saturday where, Bob, you saw it. I mean, that first shift of the game, Lowell came out and was just all over Merrimack for the first 45 seconds of the game. Get a goal. I think it was a minute 4 in. And there's something about teams at this time of year. The teams that are on an upward swing in March tend to be the teams that have a lot of juniors and seniors that are at the top of the lineup, and Lowell does.
Not fazed by it. Yeah. Resiliency.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you talk to Norman, he likes talking about the fact that you have older players and, in theory, more experienced players. But think about it. As much as when Bernie introduced me, you talked about the annual UMass Lowell visit to the Garden. There's not a single player on this Riverhawk roster that's ever played a game in the Garden.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's right, with all of what we've gone through in the last 3 years now. That's right.
Yeah, and Carl Berglund, who had 2 goals in the game against Merrimack, that was his first postseason game, and he's a junior. He was out injured last year and missed the postseason. The year before that, there was no postseason. For Ryan Burchett, that was his first postseason game as well, though he's a junior. So as much as there's age and experience, and don't kid yourself, Berglund played lots of playoff games in junior hockey, and for that matter, was very successful.
Yep.
But it hasn't necessarily been at the Garden. But I think the age factor does deserve a little more inspection because, being older, you're a little more physically developed. You've been through more of it at junior hockey. And I always think that's been part of Norm Bazin's prescription in developing a hockey team.
Development, that's what I think of, Bob, when I think of what Norm does, what he's done this year and what he does. And the progress I know from calling the games for Boston University. I think of the Lowell team. And I used to say it about UNH with their forwards. It was like, who? And then all of a sudden, the guy's a Hobie Baker finalist.
Yeah.
And in the case, now, like guys that make a jump, like Lee is kind of the go-to guy now. But just to see the way these guys progress, they develop, they stay in there, they're invested in the program for 3 or 4 years. And I think that's a big part of that's Norm. Norm puts the rules down and the culture and lays down the law, and the guys that are going to be able to survive that and thrive in it are going to thrive, and as a result, it's going to be a really strong team effect,
And no question about it. And I've asked Norm, how much do you recruit character and what it would add to the culture? And that's always been one of his priorities when it comes to recruiting. And his assistants who go out on the road and look for things, not just look for somebody who puts up great stats. It is look for somebody who contributes to team bonding, to the character, the personality of a program. I don't know how many times we get a recruit, and one of the things Norm will emphasize in talking about him is and he was the team captain for whatever particular program.
Yep.
And that makes a difference.
Can't have too many of them, that's for sure. I love a team that has a lot of captains and athletes, too. They might be captains in multiple sports depending on where they had come from.
Very true. Very true.
No doubt. The pieces are in place once again. The decor we talk about, just again, nobody that really jumps out at you. Bob, is there anybody that you particularly look to as a real go-to guy? It's just kind of a steady group, but
I guess the question is, how do you mean go-to? I look at John McDonald as a veteran, experienced,
captain,
terrific
senior.
at both ends of the ice. He doesn't necessarily play with a flair. Nick Austin's a little more offensive. He's got 15 assists. I love the development this season of Braden Ingham and Isaac Johnson. Both of them were +5s in the game against Merrimack. Johnson had 3 assists. They've jumped in. They've developed. They've been working to develop their offensive game, but at the same time, they've taken nothing away from their defensive role and their defensive game. So, I look at this crew, and Meehan, of course, has grabbed a lot of attention, both freshman and now sophomore season, and you can see him continuing to develop as well. And Marek Korenchik. That group of 6, they're similar in a lot of ways. John McDonald's the guy I guess I shine the biggest light on because he's the most experienced, and I would say is a leader in that group.
Overall, once again, it's steady, it's balanced, and Jeff Jackson. I'm glad you brought up that comment from a few years back, because who knew better than Jeff Jackson about what it's like to look at a team that looks like that they're all the same, because that was his Lake State team. Trust me. They just came. That's right. It was kind of, he probably looked and said, my God, this looks familiar to me. I'm looking back 3 decades as to what I had going at Lake State when that team was at the pinnacle. And all credit to Norm and what he's done. I hope I can talk to him again at some point. I hope he still loves me. That's all I can say. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
He does. He's a busy young man.
He's a busy young man. That was well put, Bob. Absolutely. Bob, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. I'm jealous. I don't have any games to call this weekend, but I'm happy for all of you guys that have come on to join us that you do have games to call and doing what we're so passionate about and what we love the most, and being able to be up there on the 9th floor and being able to describe the Riverhawks and the Minutemen. Should be a great matchup tomorrow.
No, it should be a terrific matchup. I'm glad you used the plural games. I don't like to come to Boston for just one in these particular circumstances. But let me just say, I'll tell you, that UMass team is terrific. I look at that defensive core, and I know in the games that Lowell has played against UMass, Scott Morrow has been a huge difference maker, and that's somebody that Lowell's going to have to watch out for. But you got Ryan Upco, and the defensive core at UMass feeds their offense. It's such a huge part of their offense, and of course they've got the offensive player in the year in Bobby Trevino. But it's going to be interesting tomorrow. No question about it, but I didn't want to end this without at least acknowledging how terrific I think some of the young defensemen at UMass are. They're terrific.
Absolutely. Could be a big factor in the action tomorrow. Bob, once again, thank you. Have a great call tomorrow night. It's the Emerson reunion. We had you and Rob Rudnick on the same show. So all the best, my friend.
All right, Thank you very much, Mike. Good talking to you as well, everybody. Have yourself a good evening.
Bob Ellis, longtime voice of the UMass Lowell Riverhawks, joining us. Brian Smith was here on break. I don't know, Brian, did you want to come over and say hello, or we got Ryan Mahan coming in here soon, and going to have Brian come in. He's ready to go. Yes, he's on his break from down the street at the TD Garden. Brian, just want to thank you right from the outset. The assistant commissioner. Was it associate or assistant?
It's
whatever.
Associate, but
associate commissioner. That's right, not the assistant.
Titles don't mean anything.
The associate.
A lot of teamwork. It's just all teamwork at Hockey East.
Well, the timing was impeccable because your boss was. I said, "Oh, there's Brian Smith," and then the boss was on the line, so I deferred to the boss.
That's the smart way.
That was probably the best. I thought show of hands, you'd approve of that. But I just want to thank you for everything that you do, and we get to work with each other, and you get to have party to my insanity every week. Enjoy our weekly calls and setting up everything for Inside Hockey East every week. And it's just great to go on site here today at West End Johnnie's. I'm glad you found your way down here on your break.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me down. I'm glad we could make it out. It's been a crazy couple of days. I've been telling Steve and Kay, I've completely forgotten how this weekend goes because we haven't done it for 3 years. So it feels a little bit like it's my first time. But like I said, me, Steve, and Kate, and I work so well together that we've been able to really kind of put this together. And we feel pretty good about the weekend, about the crowd that we're going to have, about the quality of the games that we're going to have. So it's exciting. And right off of St. Patrick's Day, so I'm sure everyone will feel fantastic in the building tomorrow.
Festive indeed. And ticket information, tell everybody, just that there are tickets available, but they're going fast.
Yeah.
A lot of the good seats in the lower bowl are gone.
Yeah, it is actually. We're ahead of the pace of where we were in 2019, which, if you remember, that crowd was very good, and
excellent crowd.
That was also around about what we were in 2020, which we were expecting or getting close to a sellout for that before everything shut down. So tickets are still available, which is great. HockeyEastonline.com. You can get them through Ticketmaster there. Student tickets are available at the box office. It's a walk-up only for $15. So students,
heck of a deal,
at any of the 4 schools, walk up $15 with their student ID right at the TD Garden box office.
Don't forget the student ID. I don't know if you need the vaccination card anymore. There's a lot of stuff you got to juggle here.
There's a lot of information. Yeah. You don't need the vaccination anymore,
card. Just bring the student ID, $15 and you're in.
Your student ID, $15
right.
and your credit card for the $20 beers, and you're all set.
That's right. Don't forget about those. That's
you can't beat this weekend, though. I mean, I was saying it to Bernie earlier. I remember coming in, I think, the first event my parents let me go to, without them going. I went in with a group of friends. It was probably 8th grade or freshman year of high school, and it was to Hockey's championship
tournament.
Weekend.
Yep.
And we made it every year until I started, covering it. The same group of 4 of us would go in and watch the games every year on this weekend, no matter who was there. It's one of the best weekends of hockey of the year. I mean, next week's fun. The regionals are fun. The Frozen Four is going to be a blast, especially where it's here. But nothing beats this weekend.
Yeah, we certainly think so, and I have similar stories growing up coming to the championship at the Garden, and I think for me, and I said it yesterday, we haven't changed these prices in however many years, at least in any significant way.
Right.
And Friday is single elimination, so it really is one of the most accessible weekends of high-level college hockey. You can bring your whole family and not break the bank, and the quality of the games has just increased, year over year, and you can see by how competitive Hockey East was this year. The national conversation of it being a down year, I don't necessarily think is correct. You think of how good Merrimack is, how good UConn is, that they're just
top to bottom.
This is the level of the league now. There's not just BC and BU. There's 11 BC BUs, and Maine can beat anybody on any given time. Vermont can beat anybody at any given time, and they just happen to finish in the bottom this year. So this weekend, I think, is really special. Obviously, really special for the kids, the players, the teams to have this back at the Garden is huge. And like I said, it's super accessible, and that's what we want it to be. And I hope it stays that way.
No, indeed. I can just remember you used to be able to pencil in BC, BU, UNH, and Maine every year. None of them are here right now. What does that say? The changing of the guard, but the quantity and the quality of the league.
Exactly, yeah. So first time ever in the history of our league that one of those 4 hasn't been at the Garden, or at least in the semifinals since last year. So,
first time.
I mean, the parity of the league is gigantic. And so we beat up on each other, and, that's a common refrain. Nate Lehman will tell you that Hockey East beats up on each other every single year, which is true, but it's especially true now. And I think that the biggest thing for me, the biggest piece of evidence for me for that was the all-star voting this year that all the head coaches vote on. the distribution of votes for the men's side specifically, it was impossible almost to calculate who was first team, second team, third team. So if you're asking me, it's three first teams, and that's it.
Yep.
Because it was so spread out and so tight and so even, and so many schools have so many of those high-end players now that are signing NHL contracts. The league is stronger than it's ever been, and I think people are going to find that out in the national championship.
It's funny. I was talking to someone last week, and you noticed with the All-Star voting, Drew Hellison and Mark McLaughlin are two guys who are in the Olympics, and I don't think they were on the three. But that just tells you the level of talent in the league. I mean, you got two guys who made Olympic teams who had great years, and didn't get enough votes to crack the top three teams. I think they were honorable mention, but didn't crack the top three teams of the All-Star teams because of how deep the talent was in the league. It was crazy.
Right, and it used to be when I first came in, it was honestly like, hey, we're going to do the first and second team and maybe a third team if we can get enough votes. And now it's at a point where everybody is just so close and so neck and neck, and the top is separated from the bottom by such a slim margin. And a lot of that obviously has to do with the coaching as well. The coaches that we have right now, the lineup in our league is very, very difficult. So I would put our players, our teams, our coaches up against anybody in the country, and I feel pretty good about our chances.
No doubt about it. And when all's said and done, and hopefully there'll be 3 teams in the national field of 16. Fingers crossed.
Exactly. There's a way to get 4, so let's just do that.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. Way still to get 4. That's right. The glass is it half full or half empty? That's very good, Brian. Speaking of the glass, have yourself another pint before you go.
I'll get out of here. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate you sneaking me in.
Associate Commissioner Brian Smith. We got everybody. We got the commissioner checking in, and now we have Ryan Mahan from Black Diamond Networks. And once again, Mike's going to have this memorized. Black Diamond Networks, the experts in technical staffing, building one relationship at a time. We've built a very strong relationship with Black Diamond Networks as a sponsor for our Inside series of podcasts, Inside Hockey East, Inside ECAC, and Inside Atlantic Hockey. And, of course, we're here on site at West End Johnnie's with Inside Hockey East. And not surprisingly, I don't know if they I'm not going to say he got the short straw, but very appropriate for Inside Hockey East to have Ryan Mahan representing Black Diamond Networks with his history with Hockey East. It doesn't exactly go back into the ancient variety of history, Ryan, as we bring you in. You know all about this tournament.
Yes, we do. 1 year at the Garden and 1 year on our own campus. So we got both worlds.
Yep, that's right, with the COVID world last year. And truth be told, Ryan, of course, has been now at Black Diamond Networks, but not that long ago, you were the director of hockey ops at UMass Amherst, and UMass is right back here in the Garden with Coach Carville, who I know you had a very close long-term relationship with as part of that UMass program, and had an opportunity to see the rise of that UMass program to the national championship heights that they reached.
Yeah, it doesn't shock me that they're back, Bernie, to be honest. I think they're going to be a resident of the top of Hockey East for a long time, as long as that staff stays there and continues to bring in good people.
Well, without giving up the family secrets here or whatever, but the culture and what Greg Carville made me look, and it's not easy, about as smart as I've ever looked, because I told everybody, keep an eye on this guy. People that were around Hockey East long, I said it's not going to take long. It actually was a little sooner than I thought to win the national championship, truth be told. But, boy, did he make me look smart in terms of the way that Greg transforming the UMass program. And the special sauce, the secret ingredients, you were right there on hand for it. But culture is kind of an overused word. But, boy, what a strong culture in that UMass program that Greg has built to put them on the map the way that he has.
I would agree, Bernie, wholeheartedly. I mean, the biggest thing at UMass, without giving the secret sauce away, is your character.
Yes.
It's your character. If you in order to be a part of that program, you have to have high character, really believe in the mission, and be a good person. And when you put those people in a room together, special things can happen. And Carve as a leader is second to none at guiding that vision.
That's one of the things I've heard him talk about, too, where he's talked about it in recruiting and said, there's a lot of good players out there. There's obviously. I mean, Hockey East and around the country, there's a lot of good players, but they don't necessarily want the best players. They want the right players, and that's a mantra that you can tell they've taken. Whether it's guys like Trevino or Scott Morrow or Zach Joe, whoever it is, there's been a lot of guys that have come through there, Ryan, that it seems like they're really good players, but they're also the right players. And I think a lot of it goes to what you were talking about, finding the right people for that type of culture that he wants to build there.
Oh, I would agree, and I think I definitely want to give Jared and Ben some credit there too. Jared DeMichael and Ben Barr, both of them are phenomenal humans. They're two of my closest friends. The talent, the assessment of talent, not only from a physical talent, right, but also a mental and characteristic talent there is pretty elite. They do a really good job. I was fortunate to learn it. It's what I do at Black Diamond now. But even people like, you have your stars, you have your Bobby Treviños, your Zach Jones, your Cale Makars, but even people like Colin Felix. Like Colin Felix has been a 4-year starter for UMass and is nothing but the bread and butter of that culture. Like that is the character kid that no one really talks about, but has more than Anthony Delgado. Like these guys are core pieces to what goes on there. And they play their role well, and they know exactly what they need to do to succeed. And it's like kudos to them and Jared and Ben for finding them early on in the process. So they got a good thing going there.
I know you'll be looking forward to this weekend. And we also, Ryan, just about Black Diamond Networks, give you an opportunity to talk about your role. I know it took a lot to get you away from Hockey East and hockey, but it's been such a great relationship that I've had beginning with Greg Corsia and Black Diamond Networks, and just what a great fit. And I know from getting to know Greg, when we brought Black Diamond Networks along to sponsor our Inside series of podcasts, it is all about teamwork in terms of what you do, and just give you an opportunity to talk about what you do and the type of people that you look for to bring in with that team concept of success, and success all the way to a national championship level.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. I mean, the essence of Black Diamond, right, is we're a matchmaker, right? We match people with jobs and with companies and that need people on a short-term contract basis, right? So we're in the people business. So whether that be the assessment of people, the placement of people, the connection of people, it all comes down to relationships, and you got to be able to build and foster good relationships. And if you can do that, you can find a lot of success at Black Diamond, and that's my goal at the company, is to assess relationships, assess growth, see if there's an opportunity for you to succeed and for the company to succeed. And it's all off those same UMass principles about character, culture. You need to be a good person to work at Black Diamond, competitive, hardworking. And if you have those attributes, we're certainly willing to give you a shot.
Well said, Ryan. And you love athletes there because of that team concept and the success that they can translate to what Black Diamond Networks and the competitive, the camaraderie, and the team concept is, I know, one that's very, very much vital to your success at your company at BDN.
Definitely. I think we just did a recent survey. 92% of the entire company played high school sports, and it's 47% had played some sort of college sport or potentially had something to do with a college sport, whether it be work in a team environment or an athletic department or something. So
Amazing.
Just under half the company, which is 150 people, has something to do at a high level of sports across our country, whether it be in Arizona, Florida, or Andover. So it's a sports, it's a competitive mindset, but I think we just talked about this today, like people buy people, right? People don't go to companies for necessarily a job, but they go because they like the people. Same thing with recruiting. Like you go to a school because you like the coach. You're not going there for the facilities and whatnot. So that's one of the biggest advantages we have, is we have really, really good people at the top all the way through the organization, and it makes it an enjoyable place to work each day.
Well said, my friend, and thus the great relationship that we had, and we hope that we'll have forged in the future with Giant Sports Associates and Black Diamond Networks. enjoy the hockey weekend, Ryan. I think I know who he's rooting for this weekend. We're not going to mention not exactly unbiased as far as coming in tomorrow, but no, nevertheless, I know you're looking forward to it. Hopefully you'll have a chance to get in here to the Garden tomorrow and have a chance, hopefully, for your Minutemen to survive and have a chance to play for yet another championship on Saturday. All the best, and then on to the national tournament.
Yeah, exactly. I know they'll be ready. This is a big one for them. Hockey East means a lot, so this is a cool weekend. I know they'll be ready, and I certainly will be there to help cheer them on. Thanks very much, Ryan Mahan from Black Diamond Networks on Inside Hockey East, presented by Black Diamond Networks, as it always is. The exception today is we are live, but as live as Mike McMahon and I can be anyway on a daily basis.
Yes.
We're going to check our pulse here. Our hockey pulse.
You look good.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, like $1 million after taxes, as my late father used to say. And I didn't want to disappoint Brian Smith. I've been kind of a Hockey East billboard here because it's what happens. This was the 20th anniversary, a mere 18 years ago. Thank God that, as I say, everything's in my house somewhere, Mike. Trust me. If you saw my house, oy vey. Is Kat ready? No, she's not ready. Okay, she has 2 kids. That's why that might be a factor. But we're hoping to have Kat Cornetta, and Kat now from the Boston Globe, no less. I was going to say, I knew Kat when she worked in the Dean of Students office at Boston University way back before the pandemic, many years ago. But now, drum roll, I can introduce her as Kat Cornetta, Boston Globe correspondent. Kat, welcome, my good friend. It's great to have you on here to educate us on the women's Frozen Four, which Northeastern is very much part of.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I know you're a bigger Mike McMahon fan than you are a Bernie Corbett fan, as you confessed to me earlier, but we kind of balance it out that we're both here. And Northeastern is, once again, they've got a chance to make history. You've been up close and personal with this team and this program. It's just been they've written a tremendous story up until this time, and I guess there's hopefully 2 chapters to go.
Yeah, they have been on a run for the past 3 years, and unfortunately that first one got disrupted by the pandemic. They really had a great chance in 2020 to win the national championship in Boston, because that was the year it was going to be held in Boston, and then that got interrupted. Then last year they make it all the way to the national championship game for the first time in program history, and unfortunately fall in overtime to Wisconsin, to a fate that they're very familiar with, and Daryl Watts, who used to play for Boston College. And now they're back here again. They've got the same semifinal opponent, the Duluth. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I really think Minnesota Duluth might be the hottest team coming into the Frozen Four. So it's going to be a very tough matchup on Friday afternoon.
It's crazy. Bernie and I were talking before we went on the air today about how Hockey East, as good as the league has been on the women's side, because BC's had some great teams. Northeastern, like you were saying, has some great teams.
Brian DeRocher. Yep.
It's amazing that the league has not had a national champion yet. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
when you think of how good some of those teams have been.
Yeah.
I know, 2016, I really thought that was going to be Boston College's year, and the WCHA, the Western teams, really had that stranglehold, except when it came to Clarkson. Clarkson came out and the ECAC hockey. Yeah, to win 2 national championships in a row. They're the only ones that have been able to disrupt it in a long time. So, but I really think we're close. I really think the league as a whole is very close. I mean, you see Boston College is always going to have a strong team. BU just has to reload. They've had a lot of graduations the past couple of years. They just have to reload, and they'll be back in it. And now you've got Vermont, who I mean, to be honest, Vermont was so good this year. I'm shocked they didn't make it to the league championship game. That is a team that has built well and built slowly and done a good job, and they're going to be right in the thick of it for the next couple of years. So it is very surprising that Hockey East hasn't had a national.
You mentioned the strength in the East of the tournament field of 11. 5 ECAC teams qualified. 1 survived, and survived, I might add, Yale. Remarkable overtime victory over Colgate. It was an all-ECAC matchup in the quarterfinal. Yale will get Ohio State. Ohio State's been, Kat, they've been pretty much wire to wire at the top of the game, representing the Big Ten there and out west. But you could see Northeastern that could be their year, but the formidable Duluth team that they're going to have to get past.
Yeah, they've got to get past Duluth, and then they'd have to get past Ohio State, which is both doable. I mean, the one thing Northeastern has that others don't have is just they can roll out 4 lines that are better than, anybody. Their depth is just amazing. And this is, unfortunately, the last year of that depth because they're losing all their graduate students after this year. So you really want they've got to get it done this weekend if it's going to happen. And you really hope that it does because this is a remarkable team. They've got so many kids that should be on U.S. national and Canadian and Olympic squads that for some reason, I don't understand why you haven't been yet. I mean, Northeastern has a great chance to get it done this weekend. And they're the team that could do it. If Hockey East is going to get a winner in the next couple of years, it's going to be Northeastern.
Well, yeah, we were even talking about it earlier with Bob Ellis talking about UMass Lowell, just about the teams that are loaded with seniors tend to be the ones that have the most success this time of year. It's that experience factor, and you're looking at Northeastern's roster. I mean, it does seem like they have that on their side this year.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, but Dave Flint is a really smart coach at Northeastern, and he uses his depth. He is a great play designer, and he uses his depth to his advantage, and that's how they shut down Wisconsin right off the top last weekend, just by he used his second line to throw him off, and then kept his top line of Maureen Murphy and Chloe Yard and Alina Mueller off the ice until later in the game when he knew Wisconsin would be very tired because they had a very short bench due to injuries. So he uses his personnel very wisely, and that's something you don't see the Western teams do. They're not they're not playing chess. They're just going out there and being super physical. And Dave Flint at Northeastern plays the mind games and plays the chess, and that's what I think, that could be the difference this week.
Well, it would be great to see history made on the women's side, let alone what might be accomplished on the men's side, as UMass was able to accomplish it last year with the national championship. And I'm glad that you have optimism, Kat, that you follow it closely. You're on the inside of the women's scene, and it's great to hear positive and optimistic that this might happen. We might see a Hockey East team crowned a national champion with Northeastern. We're certainly all pulling for that.
Yes, I've been watching the game for 11, 12 years, and we've been so close with BU and BC and Northeastern that it would be great. And Providence back in the day and the UNHs back in the day, so it would be great to see Northeastern do it.
Well, it wasn't ladies first. It was actually Kat having the last word here. And I'm going to give credit to Anthony and William in the background. They gave a little bit of background atmosphere to the interview, but I think they behaved themselves very well. And if not for the fact that you're a young mother, you'd be in State College this weekend. But I know you're going to be watching from afar and watching very closely.
I will be in State College this weekend.
Oh, you will? You're going to be traveling?
I'm traveling tomorrow morning.
I wasn't aware of that.
It's fine,
all right.
I'm going to try to do it.
You got the home front covered there. I think maybe the grandparents might have got involved there to help you out. That's what I'm thinking.
Nope, all the dad. It's all my husband.
Oh, it's all on Chris. It's all on your husband.
Well, send good wishes.
I was going to say, good luck to him.
Well, I'm going to give Chris already. We haven't even dropped the puck in any of these games, but as we say north at the border in LaBelle Province, I'm going to make Chris le premier étoile this weekend already. He's the first star, Cat.
Yes, he is. He is.
He'll be able to play. He's going to have to play zone. He can't play man-to-man there. He's going to get double-teamed by William and Anthony. So there you go. Oh, Kat, I wasn't aware you were traveling, so all the more so. All the best. Have a great time there, and hopefully history will be made. Thanks so much for coming on, my good friend.
Thank you.
Kat Cornetta of the Boston Globe. Boy, we finish up strong with the Boston Globe there with Kat. Bringing us up to date on all things women's hockey, and great moment. The potential is there for Northeastern to climb to new heights and win a national championship on the women's side. Want to thank everybody that made this possible, and particularly I'm going to start with the guys that really made it possible, because as usual I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And Brady Gardner and Brady, for I can't believe 4 years goes by in a hurry, and working with me at Boston University for the past 4 years. And Patrick Donnelly, who else but a Patrick Donnelly on St. Patrick's Day? I got a Mike McMahon next to me, a Patrick Donnelly, and for the great job that Brady and Patrick did to make this happen here, and to bring Inside Hockey East to a whole new level with this live production. Thank you to John Caron, West End Johnnies. Make it part of your garden experience, whether it's the Hockey East tournament, it's the Bruins, the Celtics, the Frozen Four in a month, Disney on Ice, whatever it happens to be. Come by West End Johnnies. John, the impresario, the mayor of hospitality here at West End. He has a double life. He's West End Johnnie. He's Fenway Johnnie in the spring. He'll be Fenway Johnnie again in April. So we want to thank John Caron and everybody here at West End Johnnies. Thank you to Mike McMahon for co-hosting. As Mike pointed out, the last time we did this, we brought on a pandemic. I hope we don't again.
So do I.
I want to bring that up, but you mentioned it earlier.
Don't want to go through that again. I think we're good.
Absolutely the case. And Guinness and Jameson, and of course Guinness and Jameson, it is St. Patrick's Day. And where would you be on St. Patrick's Day without Guinness and Jameson, really? I mean, it's certainly a fit here at the old sod here at West End Johnnies. Old Bigora. And we want to thank everybody for making it possible. And my final note is going to be for my friend Jay Atkinson. And Jay is a Boston University professor and of journalism, and was also previously at Merrimack. He's kind of been all around Hockey East. He was a professor at Merrimack and also at UMass Lowell. And the 20th anniversary of his book, Ice Time, has just been republished. And if you are a hockey person and you are passionate about hockey, Mike, this is the book for you. You've got young hockey players in the house, and this is your book, is Ice Time. Ice Time, a tale of fathers, sons, and hometown heroes. My good friend Jay Atkinson, and please, 20th anniversary. It won many, many awards and accolades when it came out 20 years ago. It resonates even more now, talking about what it was like for his hockey experience, growing up in Methuen, playing on the first Methuen high school hockey team. Really a memoir for his dad, who took him to the rinks, and also his son Liam, who I believe was 5 years old. He's 25 now, but you'll hear Liam in the book, and how Jay educated Liam to hockey, and told him all about a guy named Bobby Orr, and you'll love it. For any hockey fan out there, Ice Time. Make that part of your reading experience. Well, we're going to wrap it up here for today. Tom Petty is actually playing us out with American Girl. I don't know if he had any Irish in him, but it's a great, I was going to say, a great song to play us out here on St. Patrick's Day as we look forward to the Hockey East tournament this weekend. And, of course, the Frozen Four will be back, and we'll be back here at West End Johnnie's next month for coverage of the Frozen Four. Did I forget anybody? Did I remember everybody? Thanks to all our guests. I think you got everybody, yeah, all of our guests, Rob Rudnick, all the voices, Rob Rudnick from Northeastern, Bob Joyce from UConn, Brock Hines from UMass, and Bob Ellis from UMass Lowell, and then, of course, Kat Cornetta from the Boston Globe on the women's side. Steve Metcalf, the commissioner of Hockey East, thank you to him for allowing Inside Hockey East to happen this year and hopefully long into the future. And for Brian Smith, who came in on his break. He was in the spirit of the thing. Brian, fine son of the old sod of Ireland.
He may have had to go right back to the garden.
I think he went right back. Steve Metcalf, he went right back to work, punched in and out with his time card, and came in to join us here. So thank you to everybody. Enjoy the Hockey East. Enjoy the hockey weekend with the Hockey East tournament. He's Mike McMahon. I'm Bernie Corbett. Inside Hockey East, once again, presented by Black Diamond Networks, the experts in technical staffing, building one relationship at a time. And thank you to Ryan Mahan and everybody at Black Diamond Networks to make it possible. So, folks, what can I say except I think I can borrow it from Hockey on Campus if Brady will allow me, the producer of Hockey on Campus. See you around the rinks. The rink this weekend is the TD Garden. All the best, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day.